Greetings, folks. We are bang on time. And here he is, right there. Where is he? There he is. Ladies and gentlemen, today's guest, Mr. Marco Minnemann.
Well, arigatou gozaimasu. Okay.
おはようございます。皆様、今日のエディションが日本語を使ってください。
どういたしまして。
See, the difference is my Japanese was real. Yours was complete shambles. Well, look,
Hello.
Guten Morgen, meine Damen und Herren.
Ja,
wie geht's, Marco? Wie geht es dir?
Ja, mir geht es wirklich gut. Und dir auch, hoffentlich, ne, Jason? Ja,
ja, natürlich. Und dein Deutsch ist sehr, sehr super, ja?
Naja, du, ich bin ja da aufgewachsen, ne?
Ich spreche nicht gut Deutsch.
Du sprichst gut Deutsch. Ihr spricht gut Deutsch, naja.
Ja, nein.
No, that's all I can remember from high school German.
We're confusing people already, don't we?
Exactly. So welcome to our multinational live stream here. So folks, welcome to live streaming with famous friends. And as you can see, today's guest is the one and only Mr. Marco Minnemann, who I'm sure you all know from the Aristocrats and playing with Joe Satriani for so long and playing with Paul Gilbert on oh my God, not Rocket Ship One. What was that album called? I can't believe I just blanked.
Rocket Ship One, I think. Yeah.
There we go. That's such a fun record. We'll talk about that after. And you know, even though I thought I knew your catalog, I jumped on, even though it was only Wikipedia, and went, "Oh my God! He has played on so many records. It is just ridiculous." Do you ever have time for yourself?
Well, you know, I can't do anything else, though, isn't it? You know, I mean. No, okay. Well, here's the thing. Actually, it's a very good question because people always see me kind of playing so many productions, and indeed, you know, I am doing that. But on the other hand, look, my drum set is right here. I just finished actually recording for another record, but it's not that I'm working myself to death. It's like maybe you record 3 to 4 hours a day, and you know, and all of a sudden, you know, some records come along.
I just noticed that your kit is actually mic'd, so you are doing sessions from your kitchen. Why the hell in your kitchen?
Well, it's sort of actually a different room here. The kitchen is over here, you know, but it is actually a very nice sounding room. If you would see the other side of the room, the walls are actually nicely angled and nothing really reflects. And the way it actually sounds like is kind of, you know, made me decide to set up here. And it sort of worked, you know, pretty much 98% of all the records, you know, you hear or the recordings I'm at are actually done right here. It's weird, isn't it?
Wow. So the Aristocrats albums were recorded right there?
No, not the Aristocrats albums.
Oh, okay.
Some of the tracks that end up mostly, you know, on kind of different versions or alternate kind of things. So with the Aristocrats, we work differently. We actually go into the studio as a band, as a complete unit, you know. So it's like no remote or anything like that. You know, basically what we do is like we hire a studio, and actually on every album we had a different studio so far. So it's like sort of kind of a thing that keeps us kind of, you know, fresh and going. Is always kind of an adventure. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, well, there's nothing like the energy of putting people in a room and actually playing music for real.
Oh, it is. Yeah, absolutely. That's it.
Especially with the complexity of the stuff that you guys write. Like, I can't imagine writing that album remote, or those albums remote, rather.
Oh, you know, I mean, it depends, you know. I mean, look, you know, for example, with the thing I did with Jordan Rudess and Tony Levin together, or also with Alex Lifeson, you know, we kind of recorded remotely a lot, and it sounds great, too. It really works, actually. The guys really know what to do. We know how to respect each other, you know. But with the Aristocrats, it's a different thing, isn't it? Because yeah, you're like a band. You're kind of, you know, our magic happens really most of the time on stage. And if we can, when we record albums, you know, we want to kind of keep that energy sort of alive, you know, and then kind of, you know, project it also by playing as a live band in the studio.
That's cool.
Makes
you
perfect
get that
sense.
vibe together, don't you? So
yeah, it's important, I think, you know. Even though it's sometimes one of those moments, you know, like remember, like, you know, the very first album is one of those things, you know, where you record it in the studio and then we took it out on the road, and then we wished we would have recorded it after we came back, you know, and had been playing it for so many times. So it's like lesson learned, you know, for the other albums, you know. Meanwhile, we really kind of, you know, come with more, you know, experience and kind of test a few songs out on the road and see, you know, what works and what not, and then record it sometimes.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah,
so
the live evolution of music is really important like that. So
yeah, I agree. You know, yeah, they are.
So that you out there in the audience who maybe don't know who this gentleman is, I'm just going to fill you in quickly because we might have some new people who weren't here yesterday. This is David Burch. Now, David is in New Zealand, and we played in bands together back in Melbourne in Australia, and we played in Dubai on a six night a week, 3-month tour at the Hard Rock Cafe in Dubai. We did 4 45-minute sets a night or something like that. It was ridiculous.
Wow. That's cool.
Yeah. So, but, we were playing in a cover band, but he's a great drummer himself. So a certain amount of this interview, I'm just going to be sitting back and just eating popcorn and watching these two talk drums because I love drums. So Dave gets a bit shy.
It's me.
But he's a great drummer himself. Now, Marco, I have an interesting question for you about let me figure the right way to say this. Shifting from Germany across to America, how long have you been living in America for now?
Oh, I think it must have been around like 15 years already. Yeah.
That's quite a while.
Yeah.
It really is.
Well, the thing is, I moved over. Well, I've already started playing in the States in the 90s, so I kind of did already kind of tours with my bands or with clinic tours as well. And most of the drum companies, but also music companies I'm signed with, for example, Warner Brothers, DW, Zildjian, here, my drumsticks from Pro Market, all this kind of stuff. They're all based over here. So the decision to really kind of move there that happened just about like 5 years or even longer kind of when all of a sudden visa problems occurred, when you always had to get the visa to travel and all this kind of stuff. And so I applied for the green card, and once I got it, actually, it was sort of the best of both worlds, having a green card and be a permanent resident, so I don't need to get a visa all the time, but also being able as a European passport holder to come back and and work actually in all the European Union. So that was important to me. That was like more logical step, that I took there. But I also like the weather, to be fair, here in California. So it's all good.
Makes sense. Makes real good sense. And so which project was it that had you launching to the concept of like actual music project that gave you the clout and authority to gain that visa to be able to come through? Because I believe like the entertainment visa, you have to click a certain amount of credits or something. I don't really know how it works.
It was, I think, what was really, you have to impress people. That's the thing. You have to sort of make the immigration believe, that you're valuable for their nation, isn't it? And so what happened there was, I think I just by that time won a Telly Award, which is almost like a Grammy or something for one of my DVDs. And I held multiple releases already out musically, and then also here stuff like this, signature sticks and all these things kind of matter. And so you bring that in, and you kind of go like, look, I'm on the cover of Modern Drummer magazine, and then some friends of mine stepped in, Steve Smith from Journey and Dawn Perry from Jethro Tull, in that time, they wrote letters, and then the factories, DW, my drum companies, and Warner Brothers did. And so, and then kind of, the immigration officer kind of goes like, okay, cool, we need you or we don't. And then hopefully you get the thing where it says like, okay, hey, welcome to the United States of America.
That's incredible. To imagine somebody that we know you as today, I mean, you're a pretty prolific drummer to say the least. And then to go from there to being there, it's hard to imagine you back then even had to go through all that bullshit just to get through. It's amazing.
Oh, everybody does. Everybody does. I know dear friends, who have been turned around, sometimes in countries. I remember Terry Bozzio, dear drummer friend of mine. You probably know who that is, obviously, right?
I actually know his daughter.
You know Terry Bozzio's daughter?
You didn't know? Maybe you don't know. Marina's Japanese. Terry's wife's Japanese, and
I know. Now, okay. I know him from way back there. Okay, I know exactly what you. Yeah,
you got the circle now.
Yeah, now it comes full circle. I was like, I literally had to pause for a while. I was like, wait, oh, right.
Because I live in Japan,
right?
As you know,
right. I was like, that was a surprise. But I remember he told me the story when he was already turned around. I think in the late 70s. We both played once with the same band called UK. He was obviously the original drummer, Bill Bruford, and him. and I joined that band way later, like, in 2006 or 7 or so. But I remember, like, Terry told me the story when he got turned around in the UK of all places. He just, arrived there and said, well, I'm playing a few shows, and they basically told him, no, you don't. And he had to travel back.
Oh, wow.
So that happens. That happens to
that
happens to the best of us, to everyone, can.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, look, I mean, I was trying to set something up here by slightly going down this road. Like, I mean, I wanted to know about this anyway, but in the chats, we actually have a dear friend of mine and a friend of yours, a fellow German of yours, who I thought she was going to actually jump on the show and give you a hard time about something that I was talking to her about last night, and she's chickened out.
Oh.
And that's Jen Majura.
Oh, yeah. Cool.
So for those of you watching who don't know, Jen is the guitar player in the band Evanescence, and
right,
Jen is German as well.
That's cool, man. Yeah.
So I wanted her to jump in and come and say hi, and she was going to give you a hard time about something as a very funny fact, which I hadn't even stopped and thought about, and that's why I brought up the fact that you've been there for 15 years and whatever. And she said to me last night, she goes, why is it with Marco that he's a German who's been living in America for 15 years, yet he's still got such a strong German accent?
Well,
that was her observation.
Like, I never first of all want to lose my accent. Why would I kind of adopt? Like, if you want me to talk like awesome, it's so fucking awesome. Oh yeah, hey, cool. I can do that too.
That's a lot too Californian, mate. Stay German.
Tell her I kept the accent to get more girls over here.
Oh, well, she can hear you. Don't worry. She's watching the show, so she knows.
But I have to say something, right?
Good answer. Good answer.
There you go.
Standing out from the crowd.
Oh, hang on. Here we go. I think there we go. She's finally given in.
Hey, there she is.
She's given in, but she's about to go to bed because it's really late here in Germany. Marco, hi.
Oh, wait a minute, you have a stronger accent than I do.
Yeah, but she still lives in Germany. It's fine. She can get away with it.
I'm still in Germany. I am supposed to be in the States right now, but our tour got canceled. Also, the festival in Japan. Also, the Mexico show. Oh, it's not public yet, but the Mexico show got canceled as well at the end of May.
It's public now.
You gotta get in trouble.
Yeah, it's public now. I'm in trouble now. Oh. So literally, I don't have any shows for the rest of the year scheduled. This is a horrible feeling. Marco, how is it going with you guys?
Yeah, it's actually a really, really interesting topic, isn't it? I mean, this was unreal what we just did. We just played with the Aristocrats like we were on a world tour. We started.
You were everywhere. I was following you guys. I saw the posts. Crazy.
But the thing is, like, the European tour. Well, we started already last summer for our new album. That was in the States and Canada. Then it was like Mexico, and then we started 2 European legs. And man, I swear, like, this year the virus literally followed us around. We were just in Portugal, and then we heard all this kind of stuff. Then we were actually in the north of Italy, and then all of a sudden, all that shit hit the fan. And
shit. I
have no idea how we pulled it off, but we made the whole tour with only canceling 2 shows.
Wow.
And I embarked right after that on a drum solo show tour, and that one we played 4 shows in the UK, and then all the borders closed down, and I was waiting for a flight. And literally, this is the weirdest part of it. I literally found a flight that got me into the States 7 hours before the travel ban started and the screening.
Oh my God. The travel ban. You were not the only one. I saw so many guys shutting down their tours. Like Testament had to stop. Devin Townsend had to stop immediately. Yeah. Alice Cooper left. Like, everybody was like, okay, show finished. We have to go back. Otherwise we won't make it back home. It was insane. It was crazy.
It is. I have literally friends who now, actually last week I played this album production, for this band from England, and their manager Wendy, she tried to get back home to her family from England to the Netherlands, and no plane would take her there, no train would take her there. They tried to drive her, and they turned her around at the border, and she has to stay in England, and she has a family, so she cannot even see her kids.
That's horrible. That's horrible. Oh my God.
I hate to say it, there'll be a lot of people around the world in that situation, unfortunately. Like, I have another friend. Actually, you might even know him, a drummer, Forrester. Oh my God, my brain is going blank. He was in Germany and Austria doing a ice skating show. He lives in LA.
Oh
my brain.
Great hints here, right?
Anyway, and he was actually doing like an ice. I can't believe my brain is just losing the plot right now.
It's
Jason,
the same thing.
come on.
It's all right. Everyone in New Zealand knows everyone. It's okay. We know everyone in New Zealand.
No, but he's a well-known drummer as well. Forrester McKinnon. Does the name mean anything to you?
Who?
Forrester McKinnon.
Yeah, sure. Marco, come on, stay with me.
No.
I've heard of him.
He's box champion in 1959.
Put it this way. He's quite a well-known drummer on the LA scene. Like he does the show at the Whiskey every Tuesday night with the Ultimate Jam nights and
Yeah. I sometimes play that thing. It's sometimes fun. Yeah.
There you go. See, Jen. See, and he was just in Germany and Austria as well doing.
Man, we meet so many people. Isn't it? Sometimes
it's crazy.
I'm sorry. I'm sure you are.
He was in Austria and he just made it out with like hours to spare himself. Same sort of deal.
Yeah. That stuff is scary. I know. Yeah. So
give me 1 second. I'll be right back.
We can be so happy because we're all safe. We're all healthy, right?
Yeah.
And what we need to spread right now is like that people need to stay at home because even if they're like younger or dumber people who just don't get the severe situation, we should totally use our voices that we all have and just spread the word, spread the news that people really need to focus on staying at home because this is how to prevent the coronavirus from, sorry, I don't want to say the C word. Let's call it, I don't know,
the virus.
Chicken. So the fried chicken won't spread, right? So fried chicken won't spread if we all stay at home. That is amazing.
I like how you use the word spread a lot. We need to spread the word. I was like, no, don't use the
word. I was just imagining grinding like fried chicken down in a blender and then spreading it on toast.
Right.
That could be a thing. There's a new flavor of butter, fried chicken flavored butter.
Oh, no.
I so want to eat that now, Jen. You're a genius.
But seriously, guys, how are you handling the lockdown situation, like the being at home, the situation of just being able to connect to people by using WhatsApp, Skype, Zoom?
Look at what we're doing right here. We're doing exactly that here. That's the whole point of this show.
Yeah,
I know, but still, like personally, how do you feel emotionally about the whole situation the world is facing right now?
I can exactly tell you how that felt at first. So first of all, we've already experienced, while we were actually on tour, how Italy got closed down. While we were in Italy, of course, the North started locking down. And I remember our manager, he had the plan to stay in Firenze, in Florence, for a few more days, because we had to cancel the shows and then go to Austria and then go to Russia and then, onwards. So, and I remember saying like, you know what? I think we should get out of here as soon as possible. And we left the same day. On the day off, we were like, nope, we're going to check out of the hotel. We're going to go. And I mean, the ball stayed open, to be fair, for a few more days, but still, we didn't want to take any risk, but it was like so weird. Like everywhere we went, literally country after country, all of a sudden those lockdowns started happening. And once I got here, I remember like it was last Sunday. 1.5 weeks ago on Sunday. The plane landed, a friend of mine picked me up. We went out for a few drinks. And then the next day, everything closed down. And now the thing is, though, I live in like Elsinore. It's a sort of little sleepy town in Southern California, and I'm here on the lake. So the thing is, I, believe it or not, don't feel really the lockdown. Yeah, certain stores are closed, but hey, the restaurants are still open for takeout. My Starbucks is open for drive-through, where I go to usually. Then the gas stations are open, and certain businesses are still open. And people don't enforce it. So when you kind of go out and do your Starbucks run or your grocery run, you still hit traffic on and off. You see like people driving. Well, you don't hit as much traffic. There's no traffic jams anymore right now. But it's still surprising, how, how do you say, like how loose actually, or how regular life actually still appears. How is it for you actually in Germany or in?
Well, I can tell you honestly, I went to my parents' place literally 2 weeks ago, like before the whole thing went nuts and batshit crazy on media and on television. And I've been observing, like when I stand on the balcony, my parents have like a little apartment in the house, and when I stand on the balcony, I can see the cars driving on a main street, and it really feels like so limited down to almost nothing.
Oh wow!
So it really is like crazy. The other day I went grocery shopping because I told them they are not allowed to leave the house. I'm doing all the grocery shopping. I keep them inside. They're not supposed to leave the house. So I went to the grocery store, and literally everything on the way was closed. It felt like ghost town.
Yeah.
It was really scary when I was driving to the grocery store. And even inside of the grocery store, you know, we have these little marks where you're supposed to keep distance and shit like that. But then I'm like, even if you let like 5 people into the grocery store because you don't want to have the crowds inside of the stores, what if all those 5 guys just want to buy tomatoes? Like there's going to be a crowd anyway. So I don't really know how to control the whole thing, but what I definitely can tell is that people respect it. Like that new law that people shall not have contact and they shall not leave their homes and houses. They really do. And it's a good thing, I think. It's what people really need to do these days to make it through this whatever weird phase we're having right now.
I agree.
New face of the world.
Sorry? Yeah.
New face of the world.
Oh, absolutely. I agree. You know, when the lockdown happened, when the lockdown was announced, I remember I was on the FaceTime with a friend of mine, and we were talking about it. And all of a sudden it happened, and it does make you feel weird. You think like, holy cow, okay, how does this? How will it? Is it going to be like Outbreak, like the movie or something? How is it?
Exactly.
I just watched that again like a week ago, and I probably shouldn't have, but I couldn't help it. It was just I wanted to see the parallels.
You know what I watched? I watched 12 Monkeys tonight with my parents. Another bad one.
Good movie, Terry Gilliam movie, very good. Yeah,
that's a fantastic movie.
Yes,
it is.
But maybe not right now.
Yeah, I know it's a weird feeling, definitely. You know, so I don't know. It's a good thing that people kind of, you know, take care of these precautions a bit, you know, and kind of, and you know, I'm tempted obviously to not leave my house. Well, I have a lot of studio work here to do anyway, so and I like to be reclusive when I'm off the road. I'm sure you know something
absolutely
sensation, and so I'm not getting bored right now or anything, you know. But it is a bit worrisome to see some of my friends who work actually as local musicians, for example, who have their families and homes here, are dependent on gigs in musicals or shows.
Same here. Absolutely same here.
All of a sudden, you know, they're losing all the gigs. This is terrifying. I feel for them a lot, you know, because that's what you do. That's your life, isn't it? You know.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like we have a major crisis coming up in fall, because now everybody reschedules tours for fall. Like everybody does that. So it could be like Metallica, Judas Priest, and Iron Maiden are going to play at the same city at the same date. Yeah. So what about all the smaller or mid-sized bands? So I really feel like there's like a super financial crisis coming up for mid-sized and smaller bands in fall.
Yeah, that may be if fall is happening.
That's exactly right.
Stop saying that.
But you know what, Jen, though, it's a hard reality, but that is a possibility, you know. Like, I'll give you an example. Look at Japan, right? The way we handled things here was 1st of March, the Prime Minister got on TV and said, please close all schools if you can. We strongly suggest you close. They didn't force it, but probably, I'm going to guess 98% of schools, kindergartens, universities were pretty much stopped. Disneyland, because, you know, we got 2 Disneylands here in Japan, Disneyland and Disney Sea. Universal Studio in Osaka were all closed. All theme parks and all these things were closed. So we went into not a forced lockdown, but a pulling back very early. And then I went out, I told this story yesterday, but I went out on Friday night last week, and because I had to go for a meeting for a possible event I was going to film for an online instead of to an audience this coming Saturday, which we've had to cancel. People were everywhere. The Shibuya Scramble Crossing was packed. And it was a public holiday. Yeah. But it was like so busy. It was like Jen, it's all right. Nobody died. It's all right. Well, I mean,
no. What I wanted to tell you, guys, if I leave within a second, it's because my phone died. I'm running low on battery. I have 1% on my phone right now. So if I just disappear, you know, I love you all. Marco, I wish you only the best because you're phenomenal and I love you.
You too. And it's so good to always see you, you know. And I also wish you good luck, you know, with your band. Are you guys actually hopefully be touring then in the fall actually again, right?
In the fall, like everybody does, right? Everybody's touring in fall. Are you guys touring in fall?
Yeah, we gotta actually go out again. we gotta hang again, you know.
You know, aside from the touring, imagine, as somebody else pointed this out, imagine how many babies are going to be born in 9 or 10 months' time from now when everybody's got nothing else to do. It's going to be like the ultimate baby boom ever.
I was just about to say, isn't it? You know, like,
it's like, what else? Like, seriously, what the fuck else has everyone got to do?
Go on the baby boomers.
I heard that
babies.
In France, the number one things to sell are condoms and red wine. So yeah, I guess so.
Thankfully, in that order. Imagine if it was in the other order, the red wine and then the condoms. Oh man, we're a highbrow show. We are.
It's basically a good thing though. It's kind of funny, you know. Like for example, here in the States, you know, like the Bevmo shops and Total Wine, they're open. They're open. You can go to the booze stores and totally buy
funny
and wines. And
I'd just like to say a hello out there to our viewers on Facebook because we've just had a big insurgence of people joining us from Facebook. We currently have 73 watching, which is pretty cool. I think the number. Oh, bye, Jen. The battery ran out.
Yeah.
I love Jen, man. I'll tell you about how I know Jen later. But we're very good friends. It's quite funny. I introduced her to her ultimate dream man, which was Nuno Betancourt. She had the biggest crush on Nuno for forever, and she had met him once, but it was a whole nother story. But so Facebook viewers, if by chance the stream goes a bit wonky because we had some problems with Facebook yesterday, jump over to my YouTube channel and you'll be able to keep watching us there. So YouTube seems to be running very smoothly. So just so you know, we are live both on YouTube and Facebook simultaneously with our man Marco Minnemann. So, Dave, you are the drummer. Let's see. Oh, sorry, just quickly because I just remembered my brother.
I'm the singer.
Right. I know you can play guitar like a bastard, but can you actually sing as well?
He does sing.
Well, I can't really call it singing, isn't it? But I can bring the message across, you know. So when you listen to my albums, you know, like, yes, I do sing a few songs here and there. Yeah.
I thought I'd heard that, but I just, you know, there's so much out there, I have a hard time keeping up. So anyway, I wanted to let Dave take over in a second and talk about drum stuff because drummers need to hear this from a drummer rather than some guitar player, keyboard player who doesn't really play. But my brother, I have one flesh and blood sibling in this world, and he is a drummer as well. Hence why I have such a massive love and respect for drummers. And he actually texted me a question, which was, he wanted me to ask you what you think of the K custom hybrid crashes and particular rides. Even if you ask him off camera later, it doesn't matter. I'm just reading out his message. He's asked because my brother plays Zildjian too. He's a big Zildjian guy, and he also plays DW as well, just for the record.
Oh, there you go, perfect.
So yes, he's really one of your brethren in that sense, and he's also as tall as you and I as well. Actually, he's a little bit taller than me because you and I are the same height.
But I think that guy's even taller, huh?
Just like he's probably about, I'd say, roughly an inch taller than I am.
Wow. Okay.
So what was the thing here? So he's asked about the K Custom Hybrid 17-inch crash and maybe the 20-inch ride. He just doesn't want anything that sounds too dark. So he just wants your opinion. In comparison to the A Customs.
Sorry, what was the last thing? The A what?
So he's asking about the K Customs versus the A Customs.
Oh, you know, honestly, I'm not getting so geeky usually about these kind of things because I have sort of my recipe a little bit, you know, of what I'm using, and on and off, you know, something comes along that sounds beautiful and then I incorporate it, you know. I think, you know, the hybrid crashes that he means is like are the Ks or you know, the right cymbals that have like, you know, that are, you know, that have like, you know, this half shiny polished kind of thing, you know, and then the half matte kind of finish. So honestly, I never messed around with them too much, even though the crashes are, I think, pretty brilliant, you know. But mainly, you know, I'm using sort of cymbals that are kind of on the quiet side. I try to kind of get it more dark and quiet, you know, so that that I don't have too much sizzle going on. And that's the same with, for example, a very good example is like, you know, the K Custom Dry Ride, one of my favorite cymbals that I have here. This is like a really old one that I have already for years with me, but it sounds just so wonderful and so defined, you know. So, and this is like... So it's basically just you hear like every note and everything is kind of very audible, and it doesn't really overwhelm the song. And that's all the crash is the same thing. For example, I love this one thing I have hanging over there, which is you can't see it right now, but it's a Constantinople. It's a 20-inch medium thin low. And then I use like a bunch of dark crashes, the dark K crashes, 19-inch. And I figured, that the bigger the cymbals, the more pleasant for your ears, So I kind of start with the crashes literally from 16-inch onward. But on and off, I find like, really some beautiful new additions. For example, I think, there was like one thing that came to me in Switzerland, that was delivered because my cymbal bag got stuck at the somewhere at the border, and they delivered it actually just in time for the show. So we had an emergency cymbal set up, and there was like a 17-inch session crash in it, and it sounded wonderful. It was great. So on and off, something comes along that is fantastic. So I did a little bit of a detour there. Obviously, the A customs I really like too. Actually, I think I have one incorporated here in my set as well. So just kind of finding the balance. That's actually, in fact, what I use, as a crash setup. A dark K crash, 19-inch. I think it's a medium thin. No, it's a thin actually. Then actually the 20-inch medium thin low Constantinople. And then there's actually an A custom, which actually is like a platinum alloy kind of thing. I used this once for a metal band when we were touring. And and there you go. I think, that's pretty much, sort of the palette that I have and the session crash. Yeah, sorry for the detour here a little bit. It's getting
Don't be sorry. It's good. The drummers love it. And I noticed Dave was just sitting there salivating, going, I'm getting all this inside info from Marco. So, folks out there watching, I thank you all for being here. We're not finished at all by any means, but Dave is the drummer. I'm going to let Dave do a bit more of this with Marco, and I'm just going to sit here and take care of the comments.
Did you bring your popcorn, Jason, or...?
Proverbial popcorn.
So I suppose I've got an interest myself in just the way you decided to throw your 8-inch tom to the right of your 12, and sort of have your tonal move, sort of as opposed to your traditional just straight up and down. You've bounced it across. At what point did you decide, I just want to change it up and do that? And why? Why did that sort of become something you wanted to do?
Yeah, as you can see, so I'm starting here actually with 10, 12, 8, and then here's a 16 and an 18-inch floor tom right now. Okay, this is really a weird story, and it's actually kind of funny more, because when I started incorporating multiple hi-hats, I had actually like an 8-inch hi-hat over here, which I kind of lost after a while because it sounded like shite. No, I didn't like it that much after a while.
Is that the same one that would have been on?
Yeah, absolutely, exactly that. But at some point, I kind of just figured, hang on, I'm not really using that thing so often, so I kind of just have two hi-hats, one a cable hi-hat over here, and then actually my main hi-hat over there. So both of my feet can kind of coordinate those. But here's the thing. Out of necessity, I kind of moved the 8-inch in so that the hi-hat is close enough to play on. And I kept that setup because I kind of liked it because, well, to be fair, the other reason was that I do like a little bit of bigger toms in front of me because,
Mm-hmm.
that's the radius I'd like to play it. I don't like to kind of always do this, but I also like to play, pretty much open-handed. And I have like a gong drum over here on that side. And so my main focus was really melodically on the 10-inch and 12-inch in front of me, and then the floor toms. And the 8-inch is just like a kind of welcome addition for certain effects. So if I kind of, want to play like a groove,
So it's almost like a splash tom.
It is a little bit like that. And I can always, when you see me record, and later on, when I send the files out, to the people, or when I record for myself or something, I can see in the files, I go like, oh shit, I hit the other toms way more than I hit the 8-inch. You on and off see like a hit on the 8-inch, but usually the 10-inch, 12-inch, the 16-inch are the main toms. And then, the 8-inch and the 18-inch are kind of sort of an addition,
Yeah, they get thrown in when it's like when it's musically required. It's that
exactly that. Yeah.
We are musicians, people. We do also think musically. We're not just dumb apes that hit. Well, actually, no, I lie. I'm a dumb ape that hits things.
I love it.
Just quickly to interject, Marco, you have a big hug being sent your way from Lisbon.
Oh yeah,
Thomas Martini, if I'm saying his name correct.
Yes. I know Thomas. Hey, how are you? We had a great meal once in one of his in the restaurant he worked at, which was fantastic, So, hey, I hope you guys are doing well. It was good to see you.
Jen also just chimed in again because she just can't get away, which is great. I love her.
There she is. You should log back on. Come on in.
she just says she loves all your. I can't even pronounce that correctly.
The conical videos.
There you go. I didn't want to say it wrong.
Yeah, it's it's like this kind of stuff. That's conical, So
I remember that now. Yes,
that was the with of course you were playing it on a pig.
Marco plays on pigs. I've videoed Marco playing on pigs. Now,
Yeah.
Before I don't eventually get to this, because I'm going to kick myself if we finish the show and I don't ask about it. What is the story with you and Alex Lifeson jamming together? I've got to know. Like, there's a lot of Rush fans out there, and what?
Oh yeah,
that's great.
Thank you. First of all, that whole thing established already a while ago. I think the very first time we got sort of connected was when I used to play with Eddie Jobson and the band UK, and we had like a rotating array of musicians, and we had Billy Sheehan there on board. Tony Levin was there, Greg Howe, Alex Machacek, John Wetton, obviously, bless him, dear friend of mine, and passed away a few years ago. He was one of the founding members, obviously, of UK. So, yep. And then also we had like a few times also a two drummers thing. We did a two drummers thing with Simon Phillips once, dear old friend of mine, and also dear old friend of mine, Mike Mangini. So we did that. But we tried to get also other drummers, for example, Neil Peart, also bless him, and Stuart Copeland, and we tried those guys. Those guys were busy. Stuart just came off the tour with the Police. He didn't want to go out, and Neil,
those hacks.
Dude, I know, right? And Alex as well, Alex Lifeson. That was already kind of, and he said like, they were still going there with Rush by that time, and so that didn't really align. But since then, we never lost each other somehow, and we got reintroduced actually like a few years ago, and we started just collaborating. And the coolest thing for me, which was like the biggest honor for me, because I really appreciate those guys so much from Rush, was that he already knew us. That he kind of heard of the Aristocrats and he loved our work, and that of course is like for me, holy shit, that's awesome. And so we started kind of collaborating and working, and did it ever since. So he's been on my last two albums, in fact. And I've also played on some material that he sent me, which hopefully is going to be getting released actually fairly soon or at some point. But Alex is, I don't want to speak for him right now, but I'm sure he's enjoying his time off, already kind of a few years, when they stopped, he was actually very pleased of being like off the road, not playing, he's been doing this for 41 years, so. Yeah. He's sort
lazy.
He sort of hinted, that he enjoys, his downtime and doesn't really want to go out and play. I don't want to speak for him right now,
No, but it makes sense, though.
But he's very enthusiastic about music, and so when we started working, we kind of tossed things around and sent things forth and back, and it's always musical. It's always musical. It's just so beautiful, So he's actually on my new album, which is called My Sister, and he plays on that one too, and I think everything he delivers is just magic. And he introduced me to this fantastic singer called Maya Wynn. She's actually in Portland, and really talented, great artist. She has like this really amazing voice that blends in very well, with the songs and with the compositions, and it's very unique too. So that was the whole thing that came about, and I involved also a bass player. I played with Mohini Day. We still.
I know Mohini. She's a friend of mine too.
There you go. Mohini's fantastic, and there you go. What's going on?
So this is what I was going to bring up. So we did our recordings for the Culture Clash live DVD in August of 2014.
That's right.
And in April of 2015, I was at work at the shop that I was working at here in Tokyo, and look who popped in.
There you go.
Hang on, hit play. I thought I hit play. Here we go. Come on. Oh, I know. I'm clicking the wrong screen. Sorry, here we go.
You're such a pro, man. You're such
I know. There he is.
Oh, there you go.
He popped into the screen into the store by chance, which was pretty awesome. That he was just on holiday with his wife. It was around this time of year because it was the Sakura season, which we've got right now too. Yeah. And Alex came into the store and we did a walk around. But how's this for insane, right? Check this out. The video is currently at 606,000 views on YouTube.
Wow.
And I checked the other day, just in the last 12 months alone, it's had 230,000 views.
That's crazy, isn't it?
For me, I don't normally get that big of a concentration, but that's insane. So he's just such a nice dude. I mean, I got to meet him and got to hang out with him, but I mean, you have a much deeper relationship with Alex than what I do.
That's wonderful, man. Yeah, absolutely. No, he's a super nice guy, really. Yeah.
Yeah, he certainly is. All right, now where do I want to go next? Because this is the thing, I don't write any questions. I love to just do these things off the cuff.
Completely unscripted.
Exactly. We did have a question on Facebook from actually. Can I pull it up here? Where is Assad's question? If it comes up in the chat here, which it should do. Oh, that's weird. The Facebook questions aren't popping up there. I know why, because it's on my personal page. So
nobody cares. It's like
they do. So I'm actually streaming in like many places right now. So we have I'm going to pronounce it probably wrong. His name is Assad Rahman, Rahman, and his question for you is: can you talk about the new project you have with Randy McShine?
Oh, Randy McStein.
McStein. Sorry.
Thank you for the question. That's actually very, very cool. I would love to go into detail with that. So Randy and I met, I think last year, and we were doing the Cruise to the Edge, like this prog ship. The
Cruise to the Edge, cruise down by the corner. Anyway,
there you go. And the thing was, like, we played in multiple bands. I think we played with this band called In Continuum, Dave Kersner in France. And then I also played with a band called The Sea Within by that time, another band of mine, and with Steve Hackett from Genesis. And so I was definitely busy playing there with 3 bands on that boat. And then I did after that another cruise, which was called On the Blue Cruise. And I only did this with Steve Hackett. So it was very cool. But long story short, Randy McStein was part of this whole deal. And we started rehearsing. And it sounded really, really amazing. Like I instantly kind of, thought like, holy cow, we really have this great chemistry. Like his time is very good. His tone is fantastic. And then, I played on some of his songs and I heard his writing and I thought like, man, this is really cool. And we share the same musical background. For example, we talk about, the same records we listen to, like, Public Image Limited, Gary Newman, but then also The Knack, and then also some metal stuff, Judas Priest, but also love Queen and all kinds of other stuff. So we share the same roots a little bit, So, and then, while I was playing for his songs, all of a sudden he started writing me and said like, hey man, why don't we do an album together? And we both write songs, like bring some of yours in, I bring some of mine in. And so we totally started working on that, and it's fantastic. It's just this beautiful collaboration, a lot of mutual respect, and it turned out really great. So we concentrated on doing an album which, features the both of us. We both play all the instruments and vocals, and we both wrote songs in our respective homes, and then brought them to the table, and so we kept it down to, I think, 10 songs, and we kept it as a very compact album. It's easy, meanwhile, to kind of overwhelm people when you have like 25 songs on an album or something like that. And so we decided, since the songs are actually very much song structured with like a little bit of fireworks here and there and bits, but mainly this album is about songs. You can see a little clip from the recording sessions here from my kitchen for one of the songs, but I guess you can already kind of hear what the whole album is all about. It's more about the songwriting, about the lyrics, but obviously the musicality is also featured here and there, but we'll be posting clips every week, and from now on, about like how we compose it, how we kind of edit parts of the song, and how it all comes together. So yeah, stay tuned for that. And how would I describe the style? It is more, I would say it's more rock. I would say like it has a more kind of rock vibe to it, but with like a certain amount of electronica in it and stuff like that. So I'm very, very proud of this production, and we're just in the mixing phase. And Australian Forrester Savell is mixing the album, who also did our Aristocrats album and mastered my album, My Sister, and did also our bass player's album, Brian, his newest album. That's how I actually met him, because he was
He also did the Carnival records too, which sound amazing.
Carnival records, yeah. And Forrester has unbelievable ears. He has very, very good ears. When he sends in mixes, you only have to tweak, if at all. You have to tweak only a little bit, because he's on a great musical mission there. Really love what this guy's doing.
He's amazing.
Yeah.
He really is. Forrest is on a whole nother level, definitely.
Yeah, he's great.
We have another question for you that's come in regarding one of your projects. I'll bring it up on screen here.
Yeah.
Marco, is there going to be another See Within album? Loved the first one.
Cool. Thanks so much. I think so too. The first See Within album that we did came out beautifully, I guess. We recorded it actually in London, and we recorded it as a band. And then we played a few shows. We played actually the Lorelei Festival. We played also the Cruise to the Edge. And in fact, Roine Stolt and I connected recently, just a few days ago, and we are making plans to record actually another album. So short answer, yes. And thank you for liking the first album. It means a lot.
Very nice. Now, another friend of mine who plays in the mighty Nerd Halen, yes, the ultimate Van Halen nerd style tribute.
Oh, how
Mr.
cool.
Caleb Rappaport says he's jammed with you at the Ultimate Jam Night at the Whiskey before.
Oh, there you go. That could be, yeah. I sometimes do that, when we're kind of, in between tour breaks or something, then they write you and they go like, hey, you want to join in and play? And since, I'm a musician, I go like, yeah, hell yes, I play. I do the same thing, by the way, when we're on the road and we're going to after show parties, or there is like a thing where somebody is taking us to a bar and there's a band and they recognize us or something. I'm usually the first one who wants to jump in and play rock and roll from Zeppelin or Police songs or Prince songs or anything. I love it. Really cool. I love it. So bring it on. So yes, we sometimes do that, and it's great, that we have like these kind of venues, around in the world, where actually people are able to jam and have fun, and this is how sometimes great chemistries, really, are born and connect,
Definitely. Well, Caleb's just as tall as you and I as well. So for those of you watching who don't know, I'm 6'3", and you're 6'3" as well, right?
I think we are the same size, aren't we? Yeah.
Pretty close. Yeah. One of the very funny moments that Marco and I shared was NAMM 2017. So for those of you who haven't been to NAMM, basically it's kind of laid out like if you imagine that you're looking from an aerial view, you've got the convention center up here, right, and then here you've got the Hilton, and here you've got the Marriott. I was coming from the Hilton into the Marriott. Marco was coming out of the Marriott to go to the Hilton. We just literally walked up to each other, just wrapped our arms around each other, had a great big hug and had a catch up. Yeah. And I was like, so what are you doing? He goes, oh, I'm going to go down to Tony McAlpine's show. I was like, oh, I'm just about to go down there too. It was just down the road. I was like, I've got a car. Do you want to come? And somehow or another, we ended up with a few other people in the car, but Marco and I were sitting in the front. And I don't remember how we got onto the conversation, but we started talking about Jordan Rudess. That's right, because we were going to see if Jordan was going to come along. And then we called Jordan, and so we were FaceTime audio calling with me and Marco in the car, with Jordan Rudess on the phone with us, and the 3 or 4 people in the back were just like, what is going on here?
Oh, yeah, right. I do remember that. That was so funny. Yeah, that was a good hang.
It was really fun.
Now you know how I feel, Jason, every time you tell me you've got these different people that you know and talk to. So I'm sitting there going, how the hell do you... It's great fun.
It's just I don't know. It is what it is.
Mate, you've always been a networking king, pal. So
yeah, I guess so. But look, I mean, speaking of Jordan, so NAMM 2018. By the way, Chris Clareholt is watching right now, just so that you know.
Oh,
so. For those of you who don't know, when I worked with Marco and the Aristocrats, most of you have probably seen the video content that I made for them on their Culture Clash live DVD or stranded around YouTube and stuff. We did 20 GoPro cameras just on the 3 guys of the Aristocrats, and I edited the living crap out of that stuff.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. Like, I think Marco's drum solo that I put on there was the most heavily edited drum solo video in the history of time.
Yeah, you had like, what, 20?
And the funny thing is,
something
go on.
Bros, I remember. Unbelievable, man.
Well, the funny thing about me having done that is that that actually I didn't, and this was of my own desire. I don't know if you know this story, Marco. I personally chose to do that job for free as far as the drum solo side of things. I never got paid for that one. I didn't want it. I said to Brian, because no, it's nothing bad. It was my own desire.
And that's why you're in the show. We're gonna make things right.
But I said to Brian, look, man, I know that you've got me making these couple of videos for you, but because obviously Brian was the business end of things between me and how I ended up coming on and doing the job anyway. But sorry, I'm just trying to get the video up on my second screen here so I can just play it in the background for people while we're chatting. Here we go. I've got it now. And I will just big screen it. Give me 1 second and I'll share it to the screen because I can't think and do everything at the same time. I'm good, but I'm not quite that good. Google
He's only
Chrome.
a guitarist, Marco. He can't multitask like that.
That's the thing, you know. Well,
No, I can't.
Bassist, 4-string.
We won't start the bassist conversation.
I know. I'm sorry.
Can you guys hear the drum solo there?
Oh, holy
Yeah,
shit! Yeah, my hair
Is it too loud or not?
Sounds good to me.
Okay, cool. So this drum solo here, when I was doing the production for this and I was doing all the editing, and I did it here in my, actually no, I was in my other house then, but the point is, I did get it like that, and I completely edited the crap out of that. I did Furtive Jack and edited the hell out of that.
Yeah,
I remember that at Soundcheck, and here's a story for people behind the scenes, we really wanted to get Louisville Stomp done, but for some reason, I don't know, something didn't quite gel and you guys weren't quite happy with it. We even recorded it at Soundcheck, and just, you know, sometimes something just doesn't go the way you wanted it. And I know that was the one we'll go for. I love the Louisville Stomp, man. That's probably my favorite Aristocrats tune. Yeah. It's just got such fun energy on it. And so I did the editing, and Brian said, mate, this is great. Thank you so much. I'm really happy. I said, look, I want to do another video for the DVD. He goes, man, we can't afford any more budget. I said, I don't care. I don't need to be paid for this one because I really dug Marco's drum solo. He did such a great solo on this show, and I got so many cameras around him. I'm not going to charge you a cent. I just want to do it for free because I want the world to see this drum solo because I don't think they've ever seen Marco play like this. And I wasn't trying to be Mr. Nice Guy. I really love your drumming, Marco. Aside from us being friends, I love your playing.
Oh,
and shots exactly like this shot right here was why I did that, because of getting your feet from this angle down here and getting them from the side here at the same time as having, you know, over the ride, over the hi-hats, the overhead. That was washed out because that was the camera that was way at the front of the stage.
Yeah.
And it was just, I had to zoom in. But when you did, and even me, because I mean, I told you my brother's a drummer. Dave here, one of my dearest friends in the world, is a drummer. I love working with drummers. You did something on this that I had never seen before, and it actually made me want to do this. And I know a lot of drummer friends freaked out when they saw something. See if I can find the spot, because I want to talk about this technique that you do. And I'm not even a drummer, and I want to talk about drumming techniques.
It's actually like my sort of my small kit, the emergency kit. It's like, you know, the one, you know, where I didn't have the gong drum available, but maybe I even wanted that drum set because with the Aristocrats, I sometimes play, you know, a stripped down set, you know. Yeah.
So this is not a full-size set for you, right?
No, that's not my full-size kit. The full-size kit I have on tour with me this time on this season's Aristocrats tour, so to speak. You know, so now with the Aristocrats, I'm playing my full set with the gong drum, with like an additional tom, with more cymbals and stuff like that. But that is like the set I've been using on the Culture Clash tour, I think. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, this was 2014 for Culture Clash, and 2015 for the DVD. Yeah. I love here, just to show people you are actually human, and I actually kept this in the DVD on purpose, but I kind of made it artistic.
No, it was sick.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it is.
Me now.
That's all. You're human. Here it is.
It's all right.
The catch. You caught the freaking stick and kept on going. That's why I kept it in the video, because I was like, he caught the freaking stick. Look at that.
Yeah.
It just keeps on going. Unbelievable, Marco.
Yeah.
So this one in the middle here, I actually grabbed the camera off of off the bottom of Brian's bass and walked over to you. And there's a really funny shot here where I walk up to you and you just did what you do and pulled a funny face into the camera. Here you go. This is the technique.
Oh yeah.
That was mine.
You're breaking up, my friend. You're somehow breaking up. I don't know why, but
he's using too much internet again.
I was just about to say, you kind of, you should concentrate on talking more than kind of showing those damn videos.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, the technique. I mean, your technique's incredible anyway. I mean, that just shows years and years of dedication and practice. And I'm just looking at that going, yeah, I didn't have that mental stick-to-itiveness to be able to sit there and practice like that to get to that point. I just got to the point where, you know what, I feel comfortable doing what I'm doing, and I've accepted that's who I am and that's what I'm going to do. And I love the fact that you're just constantly pushing yourself and pushing the limits and the boundaries of what can be done behind a kit, man. It's awesome.
Oh, thanks. I mean, the funny thing is, I was just not searching for it all the time. It just sometimes happens, when you write like certain pieces of music, or when you have like a certain thing in your head, for example, hearing like double paradiddles with your hi-hats and then kind of basically playing other stuff on top of it, then you get to work and then you kind of try to do it, and it's fun achieving things with it and kind of just going in different directions. It doesn't mean that I have to use it all the time, obviously, but sometimes I'm doing it exactly in moments like that, for example. Yeah, of course, why not?
Yeah, that's cool. That's really cool.
So if anybody wants to watch that video in its highest quality glory on YouTube, I actually uploaded my original master version. Like somebody ages ago ripped all the videos that I did on that and put it up on YouTube in like 480p, which is terrible quality. But I actually I filmed it in 60 frames per second. So it's really intense as far as like, you don't get all those like weird motion blurs and things. It's really on point. And I put up the full 1080p high definition 60 frame per second version with really high quality audio. So you guys can see it on my YouTube channel, which is, if you're watching this on YouTube, the exact channel you're watching on right now. Otherwise, if you want to find it, as I've got up at the top of the search here, just search Marco Minnemann, Jason McNamara, and it will pop up. So if you want to watch that drum solo, it is probably, honestly, like, I love drums, but that is the best drum solo I've ever watched in my life, partly because I edited it, but mostly because that guy right there, because he played it. That's why it's so damn good.
Just doing like, shameless self-promo here. That's the thing. It's not about the drum solo.
Nah. Well, I know you are. But look, the fact of the matter is, this is the thing with doing my job as far as being a concert videographer and concert video editor, is I can only do as good of a work as what the camera captures.
Yeah.
And so when I worked with you guys, I mean, I went crazy on my editing because I really enjoyed what I was watching on the screen. You guys actually made me a better editor, and that's the truth.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you so much for saying that. But also, the thing is, with the Aristocrats, it's or Aristocrats, as you would say in England. Guthrie would say Aristocrats. Anyways, but the thing is, we are also some of the most picky people, like band-wise, because
no, don't say that. I can't imagine that to be true.
It's kind of the funniest thing. We have so much fun playing live, but also I think out of 10 gigs, there's maybe one. But let's say out of 20 gigs, there's maybe one or something. Not quite like that, where all the three of us walk off stage and go like, "Yep, that was awesome. That was the magic one." Usually there's always one of us, who goes like, my night was okay, something. It doesn't mean that we didn't have fun, but you know what I mean? Like, just because everything is really focused about the playing part, and delivering, the best, analog energy that we can do on stage without having screens and lights and whatnot. I mean, we do have that, a little bit, but not to the extent that we rely on this. We can, with our setup, be on a bigger stage, or we can play in your living room. That's how the Aristocrats are sort of designed. It's just pure chemistry, which I think is also very beautiful. But yeah, we are also our worst enemy when it comes to recordings or live performances, because you're just so exposed, So, and I think, the three of us are like, pretty OCD in those kind of things. So when we see that, and if there's something about to be released, we completely nitpick and just go like, okay, let's kind of get the right vibe out,
Nice.
Yeah.
So talking about, producers and people you've worked with and being nitpicky, you were lucky enough to work with probably one of my favorite producer, singer, songwriters out there, Stephen Wilson.
Yeah.
And what was that like, and how'd you get that gig, and what sort of, you know, the guy to me is incredible. I just love the way he writes a song and creates so much atmosphere around it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how did that all come about?
Well, that was actually, I think that started in 2010. And I remember he contacted me, and I have to be completely honest, I had no idea who he really was. So I remember the band Porcupine Tree, because that rang sort of a bell there, and I think I heard a few songs, but I was honestly never really exposed to that music and to his catalog. But I knew that he was around and already did a few things. So we met, and he invited me to a show with a band called Blackfield. He was playing by that time.
Yes. Yep.
And I remember that I have a funny anecdote there. I completely mistook this for his band. So, but it was this other guy, Aviv was his name, exactly. He was the singer in the band, and that was actually his band. So I didn't know that, because he invited me to that show, and I watched the show. And I remember I walked up backstage, and then I had a chat with Aviv, with the singer of the band, and he is, I guess, the band. And then I said, like, so I'm gonna meet Stephen here for the first time, this and this. So how does he treat you guys? Is he a cool band leader and stuff? Is it all fun and stuff? And then he goes like, no, he's nice. And he kind of keeps looking at me, and I said, like, yeah, so how is it, playing with him? Oh, cool, like, band is going on. And then he goes, like, at some point he goes, no, actually, this is my band. He goes, it's Blackfield. That's my band. I'm Aviv. And I was like, oh shit! I completely mistook that. And then Stephen, came in and stuff, and we started talking about all kinds of things, and we were like, holy shit! I kind of totally mistook this for your band. And he was just working on his solo career. And then we started connecting, and it was really a fun time. And then we did a tour for an album called Grace for Drowning.
Yes. Yep.
We did actually a DVD there as well in Mexico City. What else happened? Then we did like a few albums together, like what was The Raven Refused to Sing and Hand Cannot Erase. And I remember I brought in Guthrie at some point, actually.
You did.
Oh, exactly.
That old hack.
That old hack.
Oh.
So yeah, and we collaborated, and I have to say those albums actually they came together pretty quickly. Like the recordings for the albums were done surprisingly fast. So I remember being at the East West Studios for the Raven album, and I think the recordings were a week, 4, 5, 6 days, and it's the same with the Hand Cannot Erase album. Those things were actually executed pretty fast, because we rehearsed the songs a little bit like what we do with the Aristocrats. We would kind of just learn the songs, and then kind of play them together, in a studio setting, and then get the right vibe going, and then record.
Yep.
And that, I think, was the beauty of those two albums, I guess, when we made those. So there was like, a certain thing about it, and kind of, in retrospect, kind of looking at it, or when you kind of mentioned it, they left something behind in the universe, I guess, because these two albums especially kind of get like brought up actually a lot.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's a cool thing. So thanks for mentioning that. So that what that was all about. But also very easygoing recordings. Very, like I totally had free hand. I could do the fuck up.
That's really cool. That's awesome.
We got a cool one here. You're going to enjoy, Marco. Check this out.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, man. Absolutely. We had a great hang. Together, actually, after our show, actually in Toronto, on our last tour. A couple of beers and whiskeys were flowing. I remember that. And yeah, we did play actually with Jason Sudeikis on his album. And Jason is a lovely, lovely guy. Both Jasons and are. And the
I was about to take credit for that, but anyway.
We have like 3 Jasons already here, isn't it? And so the thing is, he's a talented bass player, and Jason Sudeikis is a very great and talented guitar player, obviously. And so we have a long time friendship. And that's all I can say about that. Like every time I come to Toronto, or sometimes he comes to Nam, we have a great hang. So very cool. Hello to you guys. Stay safe in Canada.
I have another one here for you from a very, very dear friend and an avid supporter of everything that I do. I can't praise Michael Smith enough. He is so supportive of all the work that I do. He's right behind the television show that I'm trying to get up and running. And I just want to say a huge, huge thank you to this gentleman. You got to understand, Marco, in this community of YouTube and doing all this stuff, certain people really do get behind you, and Michael Smith, amazing. Thank you, Michael. So his question is, can I please ask you, who is the most influential drummer who made you decide to pick up your craft?
Okay, well, this is a very interesting question because, believe it or not, and I don't want to sound strange with that, but when I grew up, I listened more to music because my first instrument was actually organ, 2-manual organ with foot bass and stuff, and then I picked up drums and guitar pretty much at the same time. So
that's why you've got such good foot coordination. Seriously,
no,
right?
Maybe that was part of it. And so the thing for me when I played drums, I never really listened so much to a lot of drummers as a soloist. Even though obviously there are influences. I'm gonna get to that in a second. But to me, the musicality was always very important. So and my favorite bands are Queen, Led Zeppelin, then Frank Zappa, obviously, Kate Bush, Prince, then also like Judas Priest, some metal and all kinds of stuff. So I listen to a whole wide palette of things. And
we're still here. I'm just soloing you.
Right?
Yes, we're still here.
But drumming wise, obviously then when I picked up the drums, I kind of in the 80s, that was pretty much in the 80s, I listened to the likes of Simon Phillips, Vinnie Colaiuta, Terry Bozzio, Buddy Rich, obviously, Barrymore.
Again, all hacks. Just hacks.
Right, yeah. But, I could. The list goes on. So I could name a lot of great drummers: Stuart Copeland, John Bonham, obviously. How can I forget these? So yeah, and I know I'm forgetting a bunch of drummers right now, So and there are so many good ones out there, and who I dearly love. Everybody has like something, to represent and to offer, that is beautiful, and this is what really means a lot to me. So, but yeah, obviously when you see my soloing, for example, yeah, there are some things that I did learn by watching Buddy Rich, for example, like when you see me doing the stick trick things, which is just an entertainment part, that probably came, from Buddy. Well, the independent stuff, was partially kind of originated from Gary Chester's New Breed, but I kind of mixed those two books together, which is George Lowerstone's Stick Control and then Gary Chester's New Breed. And when you saw Terry Bozzio, what he was doing actually already in the 80s, doing like ostinato playing, that was also like a big influence. I thought Simon was a big influence for sound and discipline in his playing. I loved Stuart Copeland for his drive and for his aggressiveness, just like, a fantastic, unique style. And I love John Bonham for his balanced sound, for being rock solid and for just his taste. And I could, I could go into details about that, and like I said, everybody has something beautiful to offer, I think,
Yeah, it's really cool hearing all that from you personally, though. Like, because when you read it in an interview, it's one thing, but when you actually hear it, the passion and the delivery, it just puts it all into perspective, which is super cool. We got another cool question here from Richard Henry, who's another avid follower of all the work that I do and great supporter. So, Marco, can you please talk about, I'm going to say it wrong because I don't do good with these big words.
Necrophagist, yeah.
How do I pronounce it?
Necrophagist.
Okay, so I was going to get it right. I don't want to mess it up, that's all. So how much of a challenge was it playing with them, as it seemed totally left field from lots of his other projects?
It wasn't really so much left field because I have a history of playing metal, and I still play a lot of metal. So part of me who was listening to all the band I mentioned earlier on, I also had a completely death metal and black metal phase and thrash metal. So I was listening to Celtic Frost a lot and to here Slayer, my neighbor Kerry King. He's here, lovely guy, and his wife Aisha.
Kerry King is your next door neighbor?
Not my next door neighbor, but a few exits down here. So we always hang when we're both in town and stuff. And Love those guys. And anyways, so but I listened to that kind of stuff too. I listened to the early Metallica stuff as well, and to all those bands around, by that time. Man, who was there? Man, I told God, But I also love Motorhead, obviously, those bands and things like that. But that was obviously not death metal, more the death metal kind of stuff that came actually later on, with like Dark Angel and there are plenty of those bands, but Necrophagist was a whole different kind of thing. It sounded, when I listened to the album Epitaph, my dear friend Mohammed, who is the head of the band actually, and when he played it to me, I thought, wow, that sounds like, Meshuggah on steroids. It's like, Meshuggah on 45. No, it was not. It's you know what I mean? It's obviously not, but it's like, it was just like, holy cow. And here's the thing, because it was a challenge. I gotta say, it was a challenge because I took it kind of lighthearted, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna not use triggers. I'm gonna play it with two 24-inch kick drums and kind of deliver all this kind of stuff on the live set.
Oh,
and
wow. Okay.
Oh my gosh. And sometimes it was totally cool. Sometimes it was a bit of a struggle when you can't hear properly or something, but most of the time it was actually really cool and so much good fun. Yeah, and that's all I have to say to that, I guess. I'm very glad, that I get affiliated with this, because it was indeed a bit left field, but this is a bit left field for everyone, because it was a very unique approach also that Mohammed used in the studio. Because the way he wrote these songs, it was like he's not like a guy who's just out jamming music and stuff like that. He's more like a music worker. He kind of is very detailed and sits at home and kind of literally goes note by note, or note for note, into the arrangement, and then he learns how to play the stuff on the guitar, and so he can pretty much play all that stuff that he writes. But if you ask him, for example, during soundcheck, hey, let's jam over a 12-bar blues, he would go like, oh, what? Wait a minute. You know what I mean? Which is the beauty of it. I think, it's true craftsmanship, for his own vision. And I always appreciated him a lot for that, So,
nice.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying to imagine you, because I mean, anybody who is a fan of yours and watches you play is probably going to get a good laugh out of this. I'm trying to imagine you playing death metal, because I can't calculate it, and the reason I can't is because yes, you can play like, I mean, the fact of the matter is you are one of the best drummers out there in the world. Like you deserve to be in the league of the Simon Phillipses of history and so on and so forth, because you're an amazing player. But you are the happiest, most jovial drummer on stage. So I'm just imagining.
Yeah. No, actually, this is what I always say to the people. It's like, it actually looks as if I'm smiling. It's actually pain. It's like. So there you go.
Because seriously, like, you look so happy when you play the drums. Yeah. It's just it's amazing how happy you look as a musician playing. It's classic.
I think the energy that you put out, the frenetic sort of energy that you have, that just comes out when you're on stage and doing what you're doing, or even, back in the DVD that you released.
Oh yeah.
A couple of years ago. It was it's incredible just to watch and to see the joy literally just blasting out of the end of your sticks and the mouth, and it's just like, this is a loving life,
I'm going to prepare myself for my next question, and you keep going.
No, yeah, this is why we're doing this, isn't it? It's like, because of being joyful about things. And I guess, that's the same thing with the Aristocrats, when we play live and you see us, and you see each other kind of smiling at each other sometimes. Actually, a lot that happens, when Guthrie and I, or Brian and I, or with each other, kind of look at us, when something really goes right or feels good, we just go like, yeah, it's awesome. Yeah. And I think it's important, Now, we're not a goth band or anything like that, So even though we like to incorporate sometimes, all styles of music and stuff like that. No, but our mission is sort of, to really entertain people and have a good time together. Yeah, that's what that really is. Yeah, to
have the joy of that, of your, of your guys' experience on live being thrown out is really cool.
Yeah.
And it's always fun. I've always found it quite amusing, obviously, in little bands that I've played with, where, you have your moments where it's like, oh, that went really well. Then you look at each other and have a laugh because something went wrong, but, only you pick it up.
Yeah, that too. That works as well. But I have another really cool story with Terry Bozzio together. When we we did a few times actually a drum trio tour with Chad Wackerman, also a very dear friend.
Wow, yeah.
Very, very lovely a guy and a very, really great drummer. Just such a good feel and taste always. And Terry. So we did. It was called the BMW tour, Bozzio, Minnemann, Wackerman, right? And so there was one moment because by that time Terry, he was like all about the outfit. He always wore black and he had like his spiky hair up and all this kind of stuff, right? And so he was always, making very serious faces while playing, but it was part of his act. It was part of his style. But we had this one section, the section that I came up with actually, where we started to play an Indian version of like, a 5/16, 7/16, and 9/16 turnaround, where we would all kind of sort of conversate with it. And we would kind of stop in the middle of, or not in the middle, but at some point at the solo, and then we would look at each other. So the one thing though was Terry and I, we had like a little drum duel thing going on there, towards the end of that, where we did the thing with he does his China crash thing, and I did some other kind of stuff. And at some point, I closed actually my eyes because I was totally in the zone of us, playing together. And then I heard like those China crashes from the side. And I just started smiling because I thought like, this can only be one guy. That's Terry. He has this sound and this approach. And so I looked over to him and I started laughing. And he looked back at me all in his serious face. And all of a sudden he started grinning as well. And he goes like, and then later on he came off stage and the audience caught it too. And they started laughing as well. We had so much fun. And then later on he came to me and he was like, man, you did just something, that I kind of never really experienced. Yeah, he says, you just started smiling at me and I smiled back. And I always take myself just so serious, and all of a sudden I just couldn't help but smiling back. Thank you for that. And I was like, dude, no, thank you. It was just like, all of it. And that was, I thought, a very beautiful story all of a sudden to just bring these things out of a chemistry on stage. These things happen, Yeah.
It's quite cool. It's good to, he's Bozzio's definitely got a style and a sense of his own, and
it's great that way. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think it was, scrolling through YouTube in the early hours of the morning that you do, just popped up and up pops a Frank Zappa video where it's Terry Bozzio doing a solo.
Oh, during the Baby Snakes, Snakes DVD,
and nothing but a Speedo.
Yeah, I know that was so insane. I loved it. And he had such a good energy, and on that video especially. I mean, he always has a good energy. I love this guy. But that moment, I remember that, when, it was unreal, man. But also, he did like some stuff when he released. What was it? There was like this three video kind of compilation he put out. I forgot what it was called. I think the Ostinato and
it was, something
and he had like serious about it, It was great. It was really cool. I remember when I was a kid and watched this, I thought like, man, this is awesome. He came with a style, with like, his own style, and kind of, redefined a certain thing in the drumming community by that time that wasn't there yet, So he kind of came out with like a whole cool new thing, I thought.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Same with this.
Oh my God. Nice. So that's our show, isn't it? It's meanwhile all online shows, isn't it? All the tours fall apart, but you're there rocking out.
That's exactly right. He's actually left. He's just been jamming by himself.
Yeah.
I just had to get my Satch on because I want to talk about Satch in a minute. And you guys were just talking, and I wanted to get onto Satch before Marco goes, oh, I've got to go because I want to get to Starbucks.
Yeah.
Because I want to talk about Satch.
Starbucks, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, I do have a bit of an Ibanez collection, and I did have a pair of sunglasses, and I do have the bald head, so I can at least get away with it to that degree.
Yeah. How about the beard, though?
Yeah, well, I know Joe doesn't have one of them. And I certainly can't play like Joe. I mean, I've got a keyboard, but I can't play like Jordan. I've got all these guitars, and I can't play like Joe, but hey. So let's talk about you. And sorry to cut you off, Dave, but I just
good.
Let's talk about you and Joe.
Yeah.
So the first question is, and because you've probably talked about it in other interviews, but I'd like to know even here on my show, how did you get that gig? How did it come your way? Was it Brian or was it you? Or because you and Brian went in together, right?
Yes, we were. The thing was like that started from a whole different angle. I remember the very first time I met Joe was actually when I played with Adrian Belew together. We had like a trio along with Judy Slick. And that was great. I loved it. Adrian Belew, another guy, he always laughs. He always smiles on stage. He's always like has always fun. So we had a really good time. But I remember we played actually, I think it was in Milano. And I think it were 3 bands, and we were like the second band, and Joe was the headline. I think it was Joe's show even, obviously, by that time there. And Adrian and I and Julie were opening up. And that was the first time when we had a conversation and started chatting and stuff like that. And then a weird thing happened. One of the engineers who works also with Joe and also did the Shockwave Supernova album that I'm actually on, he was also editing that. He kind of came to me and wanted me to play for a different band that was in Los Angeles somewhere. And he goes like, hey, do you have time to kind of play an album? I was like, yeah, sure. So I came in. And then he goes, by the way, I wanted to let you know that Joe Satriani recommended you. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. We only met briefly once. And he goes like, yeah, the thing that happened was like they were looking for a drummer. And he asked Joe, and Joe said like, there are 2 guys I can recommend you. And that's Vinny Colaiuta or Marco Minnemann. I was like, wow, that's cool. Thank you. That's fucking awesome. I was obviously very pleased, to hearing that, And then, sure enough, I think a year or 2 years later, I got contacted by Joe about the Shockwave Supernova, a tour where, in fact, there was an album that Vinny Colaiuta played on, which I forgot the title, but it was actually the one before I'm on, and so so we connected and we started playing, and we played for 4 years. We toured for 4 years. We did an album. There's a documentary that came out. We're still in touch. We were just recently actually in touch, by the way, exactly about the whole lockdown situation. He wrote me an email and asked me if I'm okay in the UK, if I can get back. And sure enough, we talked about this whole thing. And then my my remaining tour got canceled, and his tour got canceled, his new one, which is kind of pretty bad, isn't it? For the whole music business. But yeah. So that was that, So Joe is a lovely guy. He's a really, really, really sweet guy, and I'm sure you met him probably. I really have.
Well, I have met Joe 2 or 3 times over the years, but you were here in, let me think. You were here in Tokyo, and I came to the show with Chris. Yeah, and I was chatting to you and Brian backstage, but Joe didn't come out and say hello on that one. He was
could be
chilling.
Yeah. That could be, yeah.
It was cold that day. It was like February 8th or something, and it was like about 3 or 4 years ago, and it was so cold.
I remember that it was a pretty big place that we played. It was like, some dome. I don't know. It was huge.
Well, here you go. You'll enjoy knowing this now. So it's the Nakano Sun Plaza. So Nakano is the area, and Sun Plaza is the name of the place. And the legendary thing about that one is Iron Maiden's Made in Japan from 1981 was done there.
No way!
Michael Schenker, all of Michael Schenker's Japan stuff was done there.
Oh, I thought it was like Budokan, Michael Schenker.
No. Well, maybe his more recent stuff then. But so there's basically, if people do a live in Japan, they tend to do, especially back in the day, because it's a fairly old venue, they would tend to do live at Budokan if it was big enough, and otherwise a lot of it would be done like at Nakano Sun Plaza. Like there's heaps and heaps of famous ones that have been done there. So it's a very legendary venue.
So Australian if you're saying heaps and heaps and heaps and heaps.
Because I am from Australia, mate.
I know that's
You got a problem with that, cunt?
It was just good to hear that. Yeah. Bogan over there.
We are bogus. Look, see, there you go, Aussie viewers. Look at that. Marco Minnemann understands how we do our things in the Australian vernacular.
I know, that's heaps
you
cool.
Guys, as choice as.
So why did you leave the Satriani gig? I'm just curious. You just wanted a new adventure, or what was the story?
I got fired. No, I'm just kidding. No, I didn't. But there was like a thing, where actually a lot of kind of things lined up differently a little bit, because he did an album with what was this? With Chad Smith and with Glenn Hughes.
Chickenfoot.
Oh, Chickenfoot.
The chicken kind of thing. There was like an end to an era, and for some reason it sort of kind of went into different directions. That doesn't mean that in the future something will ever happen or something like that. It was never really. It was, I mean, look, I'm not gonna say anything wrong here or something. No, but the Joe Satriani thing, you're a hired gun there, and when you have time, you do it. It was a little bit the same with me with Stephen Wilson, by the way.
Yeah.
You know, as much as I enjoyed playing it, you know, sometimes, you know, that was a thing where I couldn't do lots of it, you know. So the Aristocrats were always like the priority, for example. And so at some point you have to sometimes decide what's on your agenda. I had to, you know, I sometimes have this thing, which is a good problem to have, where I had to refuse a few gigs. For example, Joe Zawinul, you know, once I had to refuse. Now he meanwhile passed, you know. That was a thing. He's Miles Davis keyboarder for he used to play with Miles Davis, for the ones who don't know who Joe Zawinul is. So that I regret that I haven't done that. Then I got asked to join Ministry once, the band Ministry. That is another thing I would have done, but I was on the road. Ian Anderson asked me a few times, you know, whether I would kind of, you know, play with him or do something, maybe even for Jethro Tull. That, you know, didn't pan out. And most recently, actually, Devin Townsend was wanted to have me on board, and the tours always overlapped, right? You know, that it really overlapped by a week or 2 weeks, and you think like, oh man, I would have loved to do all those kind of things, you know. So this is like, you know, sometimes it's a good problem to have. You know, I tell you what, it's a good problem to have. Like if there's more on the plate that you can really kind of, you know, eat, than nobody giving a shit. You know what I mean? So that's a good thing. But at some point, there's also this feeling of not being a sideman anymore, because we've been doing that a lot of times. And you grow up as a musician when you're kind of a studio or session musician, for example, as well as you do your solo stuff, you know, on your solo albums. But yeah, we're kind of raised and born to kind of important as well to play with many people. And then all of a sudden you go like, now hang on, wait a minute, I have actually a career on my own here. The band is doing well. The solo albums are fairly doing well. Concentrate on your own shit. This is sometimes you have to make a conscious decision about it. Even sometimes if it's, you know, if you kind of think like, man, you know, I wish I could have done that. You know, that happens sometimes.
Of course it does.
But that's why there's like, you know, a whole list of kind of stuff, you know, where you're on and playing, and it's a good thing, and it, at least, you know, you have like, you know, a bunch of stories you can tell as we do, and every experience is different, you know. Like for example, Necrophagus, from Joe Satriani to Stephen Wilson to the Buddy Rich Big Band, you know, who I had one of my DVDs. Those are completely different facets, you know, completely different kind of, you know, styles of music. But I still believe that you can play everything that you like and that you understand, you know.
I agree. It's a really cool perspective. You just mentioned as well about some of the people, I should say, that you were playing with. One dude that we haven't actually got on to talking about, I mentioned right up at the top of the show. You said earlier that you'd gotten your visa for living in America 15 years ago. And if I'm not mistaken, your time with Paul Gilbert was 15 years ago. True. So how did your relationship with Paul Gilbert begin and end up doing that record? And I have to say, you must have had a blast at that particular time in your career doing that record, because the amount of syncopation between you and Paul, and he's such a technician anyway, must have been so much fun for you at that point in your career, I can imagine.
It was great. Well, actually, with Paul, I started already working in 1999 or 1998. We did actually a tour together as a trio with Doug Wimbish on bass. And very interesting collaboration, I know, right?
Wow, what a lineup.
What a lineup, right? It was
yeah.
And then actually after that, Paul called me to do an album with him called Burning Organ. So that was the first album we did together. Then the second album was Spaceship One, and we did also a Spaceship One DVD, which was filmed in the studio, which was really
funny.
That was really funny, yeah. And yeah, I love Paul. Strangely enough, you know, we haven't really done anything in recent years, even though we always kind of, you know, contact us and kind of connect with each other. Yeah, but those were the times, you know, that I've played with him actually, and it was really, really cool. And he's also on one of some of my solo albums, and so is Joe Satriani, by the way. He's also on one of my albums, and yeah, it's interesting. It's this whole musician pool, you know. Sometimes you connect, sometimes, you know, not, and, you know, different ways and pathways and whatnot. But There you go. Yeah.
That's kind of what I'm enjoying about doing this show is like we get to let the fans see behind the scenes of who knows who. Like yesterday when we spoke to Robert Mason from Warrant and Lynch Mob, it's the connections of just like he grew up with all these like particular guys. It's like same thing as you in the sense of the connections. It's just like you guys are all so synergized together, and it's really cool for the fans to see behind the scenes of that. So thank you for being willing to share that sort of stuff.
Anything. Yeah, I love it. I love sharing those stories. Yeah.
Back when you were talking earlier about playing with Adrian and Julie, Thomas actually mentioned that he saw you guys.
Oh yeah. So he saw us probably playing. I forgot what the name of the place was called, but I remember very, very well when we played there, and we had a fantastic time. I remember we played like a lot of stuff from the Discipline album from King Crimson and from Beat and from Three of a Perfect Pair. We did like a lot of that kind of stuff, and also from Thrack. So basically all the Adrian Belew King Crimson history, was in there as well. And some of his solo material actually as well, which was beautiful. That was great. I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed that a lot, the time I played with Adrian and Julie. It was such a cool trio and just, such a fun hang time, and yeah. So thanks, Thomas, once again, for bringing that up. Yes, I did remember we played actually in Portugal and yeah.
Was there ever talk of you being one of the 10 million drummers playing together simultaneously in King Crimson?
No. I never really got approached by that. I know that sounds interesting. Well, I did play a three drummer thing with Chad Wackerman and Terry Bozzio together, so I know how that is. If you have discipline, no pun intended, like the King Crimson album, then you listen to each other and kind of, fulfill certain tasks and kind of, work your way around, Yeah. I think that's the importance, really of doing that. We did this with Simon Phillips and with Mike Mangini for the UK stuff, with the band. And so we kind of just go like, okay, cool. When you play this, I'll just play toms. When I play that groove, then you play just that. You have to kind of orchestrate,
Yeah. Yeah. Not stepping on each other's toes and actually letting the music do what it needs to do, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Oh, he has the poster. I can see it. He still has the poster at home. That's so cool. You should send a picture. I want to see that.
One of my favorite questions to ask big name musicians, or even any musicians really, but particularly people who have a career, because I have an answer for this. Dave's answer may be the same as mine. I'm not sure. I've asked Mark Holcomb this and a whole bunch of people. If you could have played as the drummer in any band in history that you just wish you were that member, like I as a guitar player know exactly who I wish I had been the member of the band with. Who do you wish you could have played with? Even if it's completely unrealistic, just who do you wish you could have been a member of that band?
I know it's I get this question a lot, and then I can never really tell, But, man, I don't know. Obviously, Frank Zappa would come up. I think... Well, and then there's like bands, obviously like Led Zeppelin or like the Police, where I know I love what they're doing, but obviously I love their drummers. And not that I love the drummers of Frank Zappa, obviously, as well, but it was more like a rotating thing. Frank Zappa was like a thing where a lot of people played together in certain kind of extents, obviously, Zeppelin and the Police, are just like, set bands, so I don't want to, but obviously a band like that is cool, and I just love it. Or, Van Halen, this kind of stuff, is great. What a great chemistry. Cool. That's a different thing. They should stay exactly as they are as a band. I would have loved to work with Kate Bush, for example, Peter Gabriel, obviously Sting, that comes always up, these kind of things. I don't know. Yeah. Miles Davis, Prince
would be awesome. Absolutely.
Yeah, man.
Like the imagination of this kind of concept is like, imagine if like somebody had left, this is ridiculous, but I'm just going to throw this one out there. Let's say John Bonham had have left Led Zeppelin rather than passing away, and then all of a sudden there was a call for auditions, and this is what it is, whichever gig that is, that you're just going to go, I got to get this gig, I've got to, and you do that crazy audition thing.
No, I never had that. But the thing, I'm not in for this kind of stuff, but I tell you what, Rush, that we brought it up, with Alex Lifeson and those guys. Obviously, that was a thing. I get approached by that a lot. A lot of people just go like, you should be the new drummer in Rush. You should play with Rush. You should do Rush. And I go like, well, and which is kind of, I actually feel very honored because a lot of their fan base comes to me and goes like, we would accept Marco being a drummer in Rush or something, which I find very, very flattering, I have to say.
I would have to agree with that. I would accept you to take the amazing throne that has been left behind.
Yeah, I want to call somebody and make that happen.
That would be incredible.
I love those guys, and I love the music, and I have nothing but respect. But you know what? This is kind of one of those things. When you fill, shoes of somebody who was in the band for ages, you kind of, I mean, you can completely set the clock for that. There will be some people who like you, but there will be always some who would go like, why is that guy so... I mean, with Rush now, it's a little bit different because, the band broke up and it was Neil's decision not to continue. That was even before he passed, so there's a whole new angle, of that, So I guess, there would be more acceptance, and I would love to do that. I know their songs by heart. I think it's a great band, Neil was such a wonderful, very thoughtful player, just like, everything he did made sense, and musical sense, and also as a lyricist, he was like very strong.
Oh, absolutely.
Songs like "Losing It" from only one of them, or "The Pass," "Losing It" from Signals, "The Pass," from Presto. Then also here, what's it called? From Grace Under Pressure, the first song, "Distant Early Warning," and those are beautiful lyrics. This is like really cool stuff, and I guess that goes hand in hand. He was such a good lyricist, and I guess his thoughtfulness kind of also went into his way of playing, really,
Yeah.
There were some messages that Neil actually put in his songs, which I think because they weren't like the big songs that certain people who weren't hardcore fans would have missed. Like, say for example, "Nobody's Hero" off of Counterparts.
Counterparts, yeah.
There's some I love that album anyway, but there's some beautiful like messages and stuff in there without being preachy, and I think that's what Neil was so good at. Was he could Subdivisions was another one. That song connected so well with people because. Just the lyrics, they hit you in the heart.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you for saying that. That's the big difference, because, it was like really songwriting. It was just not like, some fireworks kind of, proclets kind of, deliver, the musical goods. Yes, that was also there, but there was so much more depth to it. For example, Dreamline, from Roll the Bones, but The Pass from Presto was about suicide. These lyrics are really deep, actually, like really, really beautiful. Or Losing It, about, aging actresses, aging writers, and all this kind of stuff. That's beautiful stuff.
And not many people touch on that in songs, and I think that's what set him apart and made him so amazing to people. So while we're on the subject of Rush, if you were going to say go to the shelf, and you might have different answers for different days, but I have my particular album. If you were going to pick up a Rush album off the shelf and just go, I want to put headphones on and sit down and just disappear, which is your go-to Rush album for that moment of you just want to take it in and breathe with it?
Oh man, it's a difficult question, obviously.
Of course it is.
Because it's like as if you have children and you say like, I like my kid better than this. Than this. It's like you can't. You know what I mean? I'm sure it's the same thing, for those guys. But I think, for some reason, I do like Signals a lot. Signals was a very strong album, I thought, with New World Man on it, Subdivisions, Countdown is on it, Losing It is on it. There was like something very pure about this album, sound-wise, composition-wise, and lyrically, that sort of connects with me a lot. And I think Grace Under Pressure is a fantastic album too, even though that has like certain moments, I think. But I guess it was the first album I've ever heard of Rush, Grace Under Pressure. Obviously, what's the big one here? Moving Pictures. I knew you were going to say that. Moving Pictures. Yeah. There's no way around it. You have to. There are certain bands who have that kind of thing. And if Pink Floyd, well, you gotta get "Wish You Were Here" and "Dark Side of the Moon." "Dark Side of the Moon" came first, but then "Wish You Were Here," and then maybe later on "The Wall" as well. And it's the same for certain albums, like Queen has obviously A Night at the Opera was their kind of thing, even though or News of the World. And for Rush, obviously it was Moving Pictures.
Mine is going to surprise you, I reckon.
Sorry?
Mine will probably surprise you because it usually surprises most people. Mine, hands down, is Power Windows.
Oh, Power Windows is great.
Love that record. I mean, I know some people hate it because there's too many keywords, but I just that album.
The Big Money. What a great album. What a great song. The Big Money is one of my favorite Rush songs.
Go on, tell me that was Joe Satriani who just chimed in and said, "How dare you talk about me?"
No, I don't know. No,
It's all right.
somewhere else.
It's none of our business who it was. I was just being silly.
No,
Did you have a particular Rush album, Dave, that's like your go-to?
It would be for me. It would be just jumping on a playlist and just going anything and everything. Just for me, it was. I mean, I hate to say it, I didn't honestly sort of dive into the lyrics a lot. I was just mesmerized by how three guys could do what they do and how it was technically beautiful altogether. And then just watching Neil go, right, that's what I'm doing in the studio, and then take the exact thing and just be so he was the professor, really, wasn't he? He was the man. He just made everything. It was the same everywhere he went. It was so brilliant.
Yeah, well,
it was that genius that just blew me away.
Yeah, well, the thing was with Neil, I think, which made him really so special. First of all, he was a band drummer. He played for his band and was living for his band basically there, so that was the beauty of it. But also what happens if you have like certain fills that you compose, those become sometimes trademarks,
It's signatures, eh?
And that is kind of a thing. For example, I think name me any band where there are like, so many people in the audience air drum to certain fills because they become part of the song, and that was exactly what Neil does.
Yeah. The Tom Sawyer feel. I always love the Tom Sawyer feel.
Absolutely.
I did a Neil tribute on my recent Aristocrats tour, actually.
Nice.
So I would kind of at the end of my drum solo, I would play actually a bit of Neil's trademark things. So yeah.
Oh, that's cool. I mean, I think there's only one other drum fill that would really sort of get the ear drummers out there. We all should know what this one is.
Oh, what are you talking about? Oh, Neil Peart, you mean?
No, just the other drum fill that everyone ear drums to.
Oh, you mean here in the air tonight? Yeah.
Yep, that's it. See?
That's what I was about to do.
Yeah, exactly. I know, right?
I mean,
do you want to just quickly, because you've got a drum kit there, I'm just going to ask you, can you just quickly play the In the Air Tonight feel for us? It's going to sound horrible, but let's just get it out of here. Why not?
Like shit here because, you have like that camera phone. Here comes In the Air Tonight. Ready for it? 2, 3, and... There you go.
It sounded horrible, but it was just great that you did it.
That was brilliant.
That was fantastic. Just to be able to say that you just did that on our show was just fun to have in the archives. You got it here, folks, as an exclusive.
Here we go.
An exclusive. Marco Minnemann plays In the Air Tonight on our show. Yeah.
On air. On air. But,
well, you got a drum kit. You could have done that for real then.
I know. Next time.
Right. Go on, Dave.
So you were speaking earlier about obviously we were talking about bands and getting into bands and how you're doing stuff and it felt like you didn't feel like it was yours.
Yeah.
Obviously, one of the auditions that you did get on board with and do was with someone we've got coming up later on in our little live chats, but on board with Jordan and Dream Theater. And what was it like getting that phone call?
Actually, I forgot to tell you that Marco told me he doesn't want to talk about Dream Theater on the show because he's sick to death of talking about it.
In that case, I take it all back. I didn't mention it.
No, don't worry. It's fine. I accepted it. I accepted my fate.
Just quickly before you get to that, we've got your tribute was seen on tour.
Cool. Yeah. No, I accepted that fate with it. It's unreal. I spent more time talking about it than actually playing that audition. So it was, look, the thing is like, Jordan, Rudess, and I, we are dear friends,
Yeah.
And so actually when this whole thing happened, I got invited to do that. And I didn't even think of that at first because I didn't really own any of their albums. And I was completely honest about it. But we just had fun. I just got there and was like, oh, let's see what happens. And it was actually really good. We actually had total chemistry. It was actually really, 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 really cool. And, so we started actually discussing a bit like, shit, how would that be and stuff like that. But, for some reason, chemistry-wise, I remember like that was a deep moment, for me and I guess for the band as well. I guess somebody from the band asked me, I forgot who it was. It was not Jordan, I think. It was maybe John Petrucci or somebody, but he asked me like how many albums I had. I remember like when I said I don't really have any opera records, it was kind of a big deal, and how many songs I knew, and I said like, well, those 3 we just played.
Yeah.
And we all started having a laugh about it, but I was completely honest with that, and it's a lifestyle thing. They needed someone, who is a fan of the band, who really wants that gig and is completely committed. And that is completely the right thing. It's the right way forward. You have to kind of, look for someone, who completely fits and is dedicated and everything like that. And I think it works out for them. Obviously, there were many great players. They had. It's
huge players.
Yeah. So I didn't like so much the attention it kind of, caused, because honestly, I didn't want to be really filmed and kind of that being shown all the way around.
Yeah.
For me, it was just more like, hey, let's have fun and let's see what happens. And all of a sudden, it sounded actually really good together, and then it got more serious. I was like, oh no. Oh, cool. On the other hand, too, I was like, holy shit, I was just having fun, because Jordan and I, we have such a good chemistry anyway, But honestly, there was nothing wrong with it. And another thing that I kind of regret, which right after happened, was right after that, John Petrucci asked me if I want to play on his new album and go on tour with him. And that's when I was on tour with Steven Wilson by that time, supporting the Raven That Refused to Sing album. So I couldn't do that. But Jordan and I, we still, when we find spaces, we still work together. We're in fact actually planning a new thing right now. Just a few days ago, we reconnected about this kind of thing. No, cool. That's all good. That's all good. This is but you get, I remember, sometimes, you get asked about this, and then you're like, oh man, it was 10 years ago.
Get over it already. Yeah.
For those of you who are watching us right now, be aware that on Monday night American time and Tuesday for those of us on the Australian, Japanese, and New Zealand side of the world, Jordan will be our guest on the show.
Yeah, love this guy. I love this.
The cool thing about you actually not having got the gig is imagine all the things you would have missed out on that you've done in those last 10 years, like playing with Satriani, playing with Steven Wilson, doing the Aristocrats. I mean, the Aristocrats wouldn't be here if you had got that gig. There's talk about a silver lining.
Yeah, that's kind of one of those things, too. But I don't know. You cannot really predict the future or what it does or what the best thing would have been, or could have been. And I'm always kind of I'm a pretty how to say, like, I think stubborn would be the wrong word. I'm a very dedicated person to my own craft. I don't really make a lot of compromises, which sometimes is good, for you put your own stamp into the art, with the artist that you work with, but you get kind of, sort of accepted. And I guess, that happened very well, for example, in Steven Wilson's format. I guess when we did The Raven and when we also did Hand Cannot Erase, I think the audience can pretty much hear that Guthrie and I had kind of an impact sound-wise. It sounded, these albums sounded different than other albums just from, and I think I'm very, very proud, or I'm very happy about that. Let's put it that way. But yeah, I was also always very focused on my things, and there were a lot of times, with bands, where I thought like, man, I don't want to do this any longer. Or I don't want to do this because I have a different vision. And the Aristocrats, that is kind of, one of those things, for example.
This is a lovely compliment.
Oh, that's very nice. Thank you.
I have to say, I've been friends with Marco now for coming up on 6 years, and it's true. He is a wonderful human. He really is. You are a wonderful guy, Marco. Come on. You don't have to sit there and brag about yourself. Let me do it for you. You are.
You can always become a better person. That's a good thing. There's always a chance to grow. And this is kind of, the beautiful thing, and let me put this message out, please, to the world, there is no such thing as perfect. You can try, but please be aware that you always can do something different, and you always can improve in certain areas or do things differently. And so this, I think, takes the fear away if people kind of, are afraid of making mistakes, for example, if they go like, oh my gosh, or, I go like, look, do not be afraid of that. Things will be different. If the world was perfect, you would have no chance to grow. If you do the perfect take or the perfect album or something like that, what are you going to do after? So always leave yourself a chance to develop or go into different areas. If you did something that was really good, then try to something to move it into a different area. It's like decorating rooms in your house. Once you're happy with the first room, go to the next one, decorate it differently. And I guess, this is really the importance in music as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I have to agree.
Great take.
I think, we've got to accept that, hey, we're supposed to be imperfect. So let's actually embrace our imperfections. And that's who makes us who we are.
Beautiful.
That was beautifully philosophical.
I was just about to say, it was always a philosophical touch, wasn't it? What could we play to that?
You really are an aristocrat, aren't you, sir?
Oh, my gosh. Ready?
That was wonderful. Well, look, on that note, I think we're going to let Mr. Minnemann go. It's been wonderful. He promised me he'd give me an hour, and here we are, an hour and 49 minutes in.
No,
I mean, if you want to keep going, we can keep going. But
I love this. This is really cool. There shouldn't be a time restriction. It's awesome. I mean, we can take a few more questions if they're there. That's fine. I'm happy to do that.
Well, also, folks out there watching, if you got questions, send them in. Sorry, go ahead, Dave.
Yeah. So there was a question from Michael Smith in regards to the entire.
Oh yes, let me bring that up. Hang on, I've got it right here.
Going on at the moment.
He's just, I missed it. Sorry.
Yeah, so he's, are you guys planning any live online music shows to sort of get our music fix while while we're all sort of stuck living our world through the internet?
Well, we're doing it right now. I just played a bit.
That was the most intense YYZ cover in history.
Hey,
probably the shortest one, actually.
True, right? I had to be careful too with the cymbal, to not to ruin the sound again. With that.
Oh no, you had that balance lovely.
But yeah, I think, right now, I think the world is busy enough to kind of, just doing damage compensation. Just like all our music friends, are hurting, and kind of tours are getting canceled left and right, and postponed and whatnot. So I guess, it's still too fresh or ongoing, to really start thinking about something like that. At least I'm speaking for myself. And I have to honestly say, I there were like a few things where people already approached me to do some songs, for these difficult times and virus and whatnot. And I think this is too fresh, and I think this is a very sensitive topic, and so just a friend right now actually from Italy sent me actually a song. He is from Italy. He is under the hardcore lockdown that they have, and I did actually play on a drum track which he dedicated to this whole topic, which will probably be going to be released after it eases out a little bit. That was my wish, and that also donations kind of will probably kind of go, or that would be my wish too, to the ones who need it, But right now, playing online shows, if it's possible, I would obviously be up for it. But I guess the world takes time to catch up a little bit, right now.
Yeah. Well, I must admit, my younger brother's in the middle of the Italy lockdown at the moment as well. So, it's pretty incredible that.
Does he live in Italy?
He's in Bergamo.
Oh, in Bergamo! Oh my gosh!
So he's literally in the middle of it with his lovely young family. So, Andy, if you're watching, stay safe.
Yeah.
Andy's a good dude.
He is
a real good dude.
Kid.
Yeah, all the best.
I say little kid, but he's still he's old.
I'm going to make a crazy offer here, because Marco's been kind enough to say he'll stick around for a little bit longer. If anyone out there watching the show has themselves the ability to be with a webcam, I'm going to invite somebody just to come on and say hello to Marco and say hello to us if they want to do it. Just be aware, if you get really rude or off topic or what have you, I have the ability to kick you off the stream, but I'm sure everyone will be respectful. I'm just putting that disclaimer out there. But if somebody wants to jump on and say hello, throw up a comment. You have to be on YouTube to be able to make that happen. Actually, no, you don't need to be on YouTube. No, you don't. It doesn't matter wherever you are, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube. I'm just going to randomly let somebody come in. Let's see another talk show do that with an artist like Marco.
I know, right?
So, other questions that have come in. How about some jazz fusion? What have you been listening to recently?
I'll be back in one sec, guys. I've got a 6-year-old out there who needs me to check on him quickly. So,
jazz and fusion. Man, recently, You know what? Oh man, jazz and fusion. You know, I grew up like listening to Miles Davis pretty much. You know, but then also John Scofield. But that's not recent. You know, I guess. You know, what I've been listening to lately. Well, what I've been listening to lately actually is not really a fusionist kind of thing. You know, but what is fusion anyways? Fusion is like a mixture of many styles. I think I was really kind of happy to learn about a band called Battles, which is actually from they're from the East Coast here in the States, and that's John Stanier, who's the drummer, who used to be the drummer for Helmet.
Yes,
and he has this. I always liked his style. I always liked his groove and everything. Very cool. And he has this band called Battles, like Battles, like the battle. And especially the first album, when I heard it, I was like, holy cow, this is really fun and diverse and very, very cool. So this is something I've been listening lately to. I love the guys from Newcastle, or close to Newcastle, from a band called Field Music, two brothers. And we connected once, you know, and it was like really, really cool, you know, and very talented guys, very lovely human beings. And then I've been listening recently to one of your fellow citizens, which is Neil Finn.
Yes.
Neil Finn has put out a great album recently, which is called Out of Silence, where he plays actually his some of new songs of his, like with an orchestra. And it's also recorded live in the studio. They did like multiple takes and picked the best ones. But I think that has like, you know, there are like so much beautiful songs on it, you know. So these are like the most recent things I've been just listening to. Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome. Yeah, Neil is definitely an incredible songwriter and an amazing, immense talent. And no, Australia, you cannot have him. He is definitely a Kiwi, and he's sticking with us. He's staying with us.
I knew that. That has to come up. I know.
Oh, absolutely, it has to. And Jason's not here to defend Australia, so I'm going to take it while I can.
Waiting for that. I was like, wait.
So here we go. Another question's popped in. Favorite bass players and favorites that you've played with?
Just bass players right now?
It was only about bass players, so we can talk about the 4-stringed or 5-stringed one among us.
Well, oh my gosh, you know, this is a dangerous question because, you know, I might forget someone, and I don't want to forget someone, you know. Well, the ones let me rephrase it a little bit. The ones I'm recently playing with, actually, and love playing with, is obviously Mohini Day. She's a fantastic human being, you know. We're dear friends, you know. And I love her dearly, always will. And we played on many occasions, and it is always fun, you know, always like this cool chemistry and just like, lots of magic going on. Then obviously Brian is fantastic, our bass player in the Aristocrats, you know, and longtime collaborator. He has this kind of thing. He's always rock solid at what he does. You know, there's never a sort of kind of thing about insecurity or something, you know. That's that, by the way, in the whole Aristocrats band, the thing. We are a trio, but it feels very safe because even if something goes wrong with an equipment failure of someone or something on stage, we still feel confident that the two of us, you know, can still kind of carry, you know, until the whole mission got recovered there. Yeah. So that's a kind of, you know, a thing I really kind of needed to point out on the side. I love working with Nick Becks. Obviously, we have this band called the Mute Gods.
Yes.
And he is just not only a lovely human being and a great friend, but also a very interesting character and interesting player, you know, just like, So these are three I kind of, you know, just brought up. Look at that. There you go. That's right. Deva Bujana. And there are obviously more bass players, you know, the list would go on right now. Just that those are the three ones that just came to mind right now. Yeah. That is a good album. That was a good album. It's called Mahandini. We did. It was really cool.
I brought this up so that people can see. For those who don't know who Mohini is, I think she has. She's got it chilled out there, but that girl has so much hair, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, Mohini is great, and there's Jordan, and we also had Jimmy Haslip from the Yellow Jackets. He was producing one of the songs. He came in for one song or something, and then we had here. What's his name? I'm blanking right now. Shit, I shouldn't. played in the Chili Peppers guitar. John Frusciante. Yeah,
yes.
He sang a song and brought actually 1 or 2 songs in. Mike Stern played actually also on that album. That was a great production. That was so much fun doing this album, man. You know, we played that album in one day, and it sounds really good. It was Jordan Rudess, Mohini Day, obviously Deva Bujana, and myself. We were the core there and recording this, and it came together so beautifully. Very, very proud of that album. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Because I had to quickly run out and check on my son, I didn't catch if anybody actually said they wanted to come into the show. But if you want to come into the show quickly, I just clicked and realized I've got to send you a link to do it. That's how it works. So hit me up on Facebook. Send me a message on Facebook. You can find me on if you go to facebook.com/ here we go, Jason Video Music Tokyo. That's what my URL is, Jason. I'll even type it in here so that you can get it. I don't know if it'll let me do the whole thing, but that way you've got it there and you can copy and paste and send me a message. Sorry, you guys can keep talking because I've got to do this.
Yeah.
Thomas Mancini's asked us a little question in regards to Nick Beggs and wants to know, does he always sound check naked?
I knew something like that had to happen, right? I can only tell you this really funny anecdote once. He's like I said, he's actually one of the most lovely human beings, but he also has like, you know, a kind of funny side to him. I would call it more like a funny side, you know. It's like, you know, that's like a very cool kind of loose and you know, a way of kind of projecting humor, and he's just a funny dude, you know, in a very humorous way. And I love this guy. So this thing that happened once, we were playing in I remember that very well, in Montreal, Canada, and that was with Steven Wilson, and we were on the tour bus. And so here's the tour bus, there's the road, and then there's the backstage. So I walked in the afternoon to soundcheck from the bus to the backstage, and there were like some people waiting with like stuff to sign.
Yes.
And I was like, so I walked out, and those guys said like, hey, would you mind signing some of these? I was like, sure, you know, I will. So I signed those. And then I walked actually into the venue or back to the bus or something. And then they said like, do you think actually the others will come out too? This is a question you can always set the clock for when you're in a band or something like that and you sign something, and then the question comes, do you think the others will come out too to sign? And so I walked in and Nick was there. And I told the story to Nick. I was like, yeah, there's like some people waiting. And they said like, you know, do the others come out too? The usual question. And Nick goes like, huh. He pondered over it a little bit for like a minute or so. And then he goes like, yeah. So he got completely naked and opened the door and walked out. Hi, guys. And they were like, oh, whoa.
To have that level of self-confidence blows my mind.
I was like, that's fucking awesome, man. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show, because I'm probably going to pronounce his name wrong, but here we go. Thomas Mancini.
Hey. How are you, man?
Hey, man.
So good to see you. How's life? Hi, guys. And they were like, oh, whoa.
Thomas, you need to make sure that you turn off the sound on the other YouTube video, mate.
Sorry.
There we go. He's muted it now.
Okay.
That's the one.
Can you hear us real time?
Yes. Now we're good.
So, Thomas, please tell us, where are you exactly in the world?
Well, I'm locked at home in Lisbon, Portugal. Yeah.
Well, welcome to the show.
We're probably all home locked in, aren't we?
Yeah.
So you've met Marco before, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I met Marco like 2009 or 10.
Yeah.
When he was playing with Adrian and Julie.
Yeah.
And then I always followed his career. Like he even mentioned the Paul Gilbert. I'm only 37, but I remember buying Burning Organ.
Oh yeah, cool.
I think Jason got corona.
I was about to say, Jason is like, you know.
I just swallowed some saliva the wrong way. Give me a break.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what they all say.
Yeah, right.
No, I honestly, I've never had Corona. I don't drink beer.
Yeah, da-da-da-da. Here, that's for you now. Okay, you deserve
Thank you. I got one of them from Marco Minnemann. Yes, life goal completed.
But well, yeah, and so I remember buying Burning Organ like
Yeah,
what 20 years ago or something like that.
out there for a while. That's true. Yeah.
I love that album. Love
thank
it. And it's funny because it has a song with like fado, like Portuguese, SRV something is the name of the song.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so cool, man, that you have that album. That's actually
Yeah.
a while back. Yeah, true.
I remember when I bought it, it even came with a Paul Gilbert pick inside the digipack.
Special edition.
Well, and so yeah, I remember that. So of course we followed these guys, and then when they came for their first Aristocrats concert in Portugal, 2014, 15,
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah, I'm a chef. I had a restaurant, and
A very good chef, an amazing chef.
thank you. You're an amazing drummer.
Oh,
What can I say? And yeah, then I invited them to go to my restaurant to have lunch there, and they did. So yeah, so basically we started talking, and then I met them again in Italy when you played with the G3 in Torino.
Torino, that's right. Yeah.
And 2 months ago.
That's right. You were
more or
there.
less.
I know, man. That's cool. Yeah, you've been to so many of those shows, which is fantastic. And I remember like very, very well when we went for lunch in your amazing place. It was unreal. It was unreal. I wish I could have stayed there, for longer, because I remember we kind of went there and then took off because we had to play a show, or drove somewhere else to Spain or something. And I wish, we could have stayed longer or had like a proper dinner or something, but we made it the lunch experience, and it was remarkable.
Yeah,
it was remarkable.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
that's cool.
I really appreciate it. Wow. And it's funny that I know that like I have a friend of mine that is online as well, Gonçalo. You met Gonçalo here last time.
Yeah.
2 months ago.
That's right.
Yeah, he was with us in the car.
Yes.
And yeah, he's telling me to go to bed.
Oh my God!
Right.
It is like what, 4 a.m, isn't it?
It's 2 a.m. here.
2 a.m. Oh yeah, you're in Portugal. You're in Portugal. You're a little bit earlier than the rest of Europe. There, yeah, that's right. Absolutely.
No. The rest of Europe is actually ahead of us.
Yeah, that's what I actually mean. That's what I actually mean. Yeah.
David is actually the furthest ahead.
Oh, he's the furthest ahead. Yeah.
So time checks, Dave.
It's currently 7 minutes past 3 in the afternoon on the 26th of March. So, yeah, I'm we're miles ahead.
Yeah.
So it's 11:07.
Very behind on lots of other things.
Yeah,
it's 11:07 a.m. here on Thursday. What about for you, Marco? It's currently what?
Yeah, I'm here actually at 7:07 p.m. So yeah, there you go.
But on Wednesday, you're a day behind us.
I'm a day behind you. Yeah, I'm Wednesday, March 25th. So it's a very cool global meeting here that we have right now, isn't it?
And what about for you, Thomas?
It's 2 a.m. here in Portugal.
26th.
26th, yes.
Yeah, exactly.
It is definitely an international meeting. Because we've actually had a couple of people pop in from South America just recently to start watching the show. So we've got a question here from Bernardo Guzman Arno.
Okay.
Arnau?
Yeah.
I get it right.
Peru,
Sorry.
From Peru. My bass drum technique is awesome. Any tips for speed control? Thank you for the question, and thank you for the compliment. I'll try. The thing, what I do, with my feet is, well, first of all, try to play both feet at the same time and play 16th notes. so that you have like a thing. You set yourself actually a pulse, boom, bam, and then you play with your feet like bum, 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 bum. I would do it here, but it would sound terrible through the microphone. But
you can try it. It'll sound terrible. Why not?
I can try it. So what you do, I play it with a hi-hat, so it's quieter. So you set yourself a pulse, right? And then you play with your hi-hat with the left foot. And then you play the same thing with the kick drum, and then you play it both at the same time. And then you kind of just alternate your left foot and bring it actually into place on the offbeat. So what happens then is 2 and. So here's a little tip for speed.
That's awesome.
You know, the funny thing is you're sitting there doing your thing and the three of us are sitting here grinning like idiots. It's like, wow. It's like we've just seen our first pair of boobs.
I hope the speakers were not kind of blowing off. I tried to play it quietly. Was it all right? Okay, good.
Yeah, you know, it was okay. You gave us what Marco's neighbors would hear.
Oh, that's classic. That's hilarious. BV Ninja, welcome, mate. It's 3:07 in Switzerland. He posted a couple of minutes ago.
Yeah.
So, yeah, crazy. BV Ninja's a legend. I see him around quite a bit, and he's a good dude.
So what is it?
Let me get something here. I'll be right back.
Cool.
Sure, by all means. Bernardo has just sent in thank you, Marco, and a bunch of claps. He was very grateful for what you did just then, Marco. So that was the gentleman who asked for that.
Oh, the guy from Peru. Sorry, I was distracted because all of a sudden the message communism. All good. So yeah. Awesome. Thank you. Oh my gosh, look at this.
Wow. Hang on, let me highlight that.
Yeah, that's right. Cool. Yeah,
that's amazing.
Cool.
Excellent. Very nice.
Very cool indeed. My brother is probably not still watching, but he asked another question like an hour ago, which I didn't get around to. You mentioned earlier that Kerry King lives down the street from you. He's just wondering if Kerry's ever mentioned what he's going to be doing after Slayer chills out. Like, does he have any plans that you're aware of?
I do know actually some plans that he was kind of going for, but it's not public, and I cannot
That's
really
fine.
say that. And
That's fine.
yeah, but there are some musicians I guess he's thinking of, and maybe they're collaborating or something. But that is kind of a thing. Yeah.
Well, look, next time you just like happen to casually go for a dog walk with Kerry or whatever it is that you guys do, catch up for Starbucks, let him know about the show. Please let anyone know about the show, and if they want to jump on. I mean, I've met Kerry once, and I have to say, I have met. I mean, you know me. I'm not trying to drop names here. It's just it's the truth. I mean, I know you and all the Aristocrats guys, and I've been to 5150 and hung out with Eddie, and I've done a video for Steve Vai, and so I've met all these dudes, and I'm used to it. But the one dude that I felt kind of like really, I just didn't know how to handle myself was Kerry King. He's just got such a presence, and I didn't really know. Like it was one of those very rare moments where I was like, I didn't feel starstruck. I just didn't know what the hell to say to him.
He's actually an absolute sweetheart, I have to really say, and I remember his wife Aisha once said like a thing where she goes like, he just looks so dangerous. He's totally not. He's like a very, very kind guy, and everybody knows that. Everybody who's friends with him or knows him, he's one of the most generous, amazing people. He invited me so many times over to his house and had the most amazing dinner parties, and just overall a very, very good guy, a very, very good guy. I have to really say. And yeah, he has a style, and which I hoped that he would have. When you go into his house, the artworks and all this kind of stuff reminds you of the Slayer stuff. But it is cool. He's a very knowledgeable, intelligent human being who knows exactly how to handle business. He knows exactly, like how, from his experience, his band works and what the right steps are to kind of preserve the legacy of the band. And I really, and here's the one thing. And he also is very aware of what he is doing and what he is not doing. So he knows exactly the genre he feels home. I hope he doesn't hate me for that, but I should tell that story. Nah, he won't. It's actually very cool. He said once this thing, which was actually so sweet of him, because it was just when I started working with Alex Lifeson on this new album, and he was just playing, some stuff there, and then we started, and I picked up one of his guitars of Kerry's guitars. There was like a black guitar with like blood on it. Like he played it on the first album. It's shown on Show No Mercy or on Hello Waits or some of the earlier ones. And I started playing it, and he goes like, "Oh man, this German guy makes this guitar sound good." he was such a sweetheart there. And then I said, like, we talked about this album that I'm doing there and stuff, and then Alex was playing on it, and then I was just saying, I just looked over and I said like, "Yeah, you want to come and play a guitar solo on that one too or something?" And then he goes like, he says, "Alex Lifeson doesn't need me." He was so humble about it, and he said like. And he said one thing, and I hope he's cool that I say that. I know he is. He says, "Look," he says, "I don't really consider myself as being a good guitar player, really, And then I told him, and I said, like, "Yeah, but you bring your style across. You have exactly your style and what you do, and you kind of preserve that kind of thing." And that's exactly what he's in for, and that's exactly what he wanted to hear, because we were talking about what happens after Slayer and with the whole legacy of it, and we were listening to AC/DC. Because Kerry is a huge AC/DC fan. And at some point, while we were browsing like other options with bands and whatnot, and kind of, sort of talking about music, I told him like, you guys are, I hope you're not offended if I say that, but you guys are more like, AC/DC, in thrash metal. And he said like, "Dude, that's what I always say. That's exactly what I want it to be. Like once kind of finding the recipe and then always the same."
It makes sense.
And that is what he's all about. But that's also exactly how he rolls. And I guess that's a cool thing, knowing exactly where you're at, what you're doing, what you're good at, and finding that way, and then marketing it that way also, but also being truthful to yourself.
That's it.
That's the smart dude. I couldn't help though but laughing when you were in the beginning of that story, because you said like he has great dinner parties and stuff. I'm just imagining Kerry King going, "Could you pass the fondue?"
Well, yeah, it would be more like, "Hey, here's some nice tequila, and hey, here's some cool food. Oh, that cheese is awesome, and oh, look at that." No, he's a really lovely guy, yeah. I remember like, my drum tech when I was playing with Joe Satriani, Jose Barraquillo, he's a great guy. And we met last year on the cruise to the Edge as well. But he told me a story once. He goes like, because he teched also for Slayer, so we both we had the same drum techs once there, So he goes, "Man, Kerry is intimidating, man. He's like really intimidating." And Jose is like a big dude. He's actually he's a big dude. And Kerry is kind of small but very compact and stuff. But just the way he dresses then and on stage and stuff, he felt really intimidating. He goes like, "Man." So I told Kerry that story, and I said like, "Dude, you guys and I, we have the same drum tech. Jose is there," and stuff like that. And he goes like, "Oh, yeah." And he goes, and I say like, "He says you're really intimidating." And Kerry goes, "Good."
Perfect answer.
Yeah, so there you go.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
That's really, really cool. So, look, I'll thank you for your time jumping on, Thomas, and I'm going to quickly open this up to somebody else before we jump off and end our show eventually.
Thank you, Thomas. See you next time. All right. Have a wonderful night, man.
See you, Marco. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for watching and being a part of the show, Thomas, and for being in the comments. It's appreciated. We'll see you back here tomorrow night for Vernon Reid, huh?
I will. I love Living Color.
Yeah, don't we all?
And actually, I saw Living Color exactly on the same place that you played, Marco played with Adrian and Julie.
Oh, fantastic. That's so cool. Yeah, please say hi to Vernon, from me, because they were on tour with us with Joe Satriani a few years back. Yeah,
I remember. Love Living Color. But well, I'll be here tomorrow if I don't fall asleep. But yeah.
Cool.
Take care.
Thanks, Thomas.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Cool. All right.
All right, so if anybody else wants to quickly jump in, if somebody from Peru or somewhere around the world, wherever you are, we can't keep Marco here forever, but he hasn't told me, Jason, I've had enough and I want to go.
Yeah, let's do maybe 1 or 2 more, huh? And then
yeah.
And then dinner.
So, send me a message through Facebook. I put the link up just before. It's in the YouTube chat, or if you're already on Facebook, you can chuck it in the comments there, or actually message me rather. It's more to the point. Message me and we'll make it happen for you. I'll actually quickly chuck the message space across onto the onto the Facebook stream as well. In fact, you know what? I'll just put it on the live chat here. Here we go. This will be the best place to do it. Oh, I've got too many things going on here.
Yep, he's back to that can't multitask again.
Do you want to mention that DVD you've got sitting behind you?
The Extreme Drumming DVD that Marco did many years ago.
Yeah, that is an old hat. That is
that was my introduction to Marco. That was
cool.
in a drumming store, and just like, I want some sort of inspiration, and saw this one saying Extreme Drumming, and I went, oh, this looks like fun. Sitting down watching this and seeing you just jamming along with loops.
Yeah, that's
of random stuff. I think there was a loop from The Simpsons. I think there was something like that. There was a bit just jamming.
And stuff. Yeah,
it was crazy. It was incredible. It inspired me to go out and get a sampler so I could chuck loops on and start jamming.
I thought it was the concept more of kind of making people not being afraid of odd meters, to kind of see that everyone has rhythm in their speech, and so to kind of when you loop that, all of a sudden it takes away the fear of kind of counting. I mean, you can count it out later and then feel it, but for me it's like a more fun approach than just doing the mathematical approach, and so that's why I kind of came up with that thing, and yeah. That seemed to work, I guess. What a shit title, by the way. Extreme Drumming. That was not my idea, by the way. That was not my idea. That was exactly the time.
Of course it wasn't your idea. We believe you.
There was exactly the time. And I don't want to complain, obviously, because the DVD worked and it got me a Telly Award, I guess, But the thing was, it was the time that we drummers experienced what the guitar players had in the 80s. Where they were kind of featured, for their most extreme things or technical kind of stuff. And we drummers had this actually about like 20 years ago, or, around that time, 15 years ago. And everybody who had something that the people thought was kind of extreme or groundbreaking or something, or whatever you may call it, did something about that. And and that was actually one of those things. It was more about the independence and speed and
as you call it, your interdependence.
Right. Interdependence was also a thing I didn't come up with. It's an independence approach. I want to make it sound musical, and but there you go. Yeah, but it's cool that this thing is out there. Why not? Right?
I just blew me away that the fact that it was a double-sided DVD. It wasn't 2 DVDs in one pack. It was 1 DVD, and you had to flip it over to watch the other stuff. It was like never seen that. It was weird.
True.
I've only ever seen that once before. That's crazy.
Yeah, it was cool, but it was, I had a big drum kit of this, similar sort of size to what you're playing there, and I went I might try moving my tom over the other side and just see what that does for my playing.
Yeah,
it went back pretty quick because I couldn't get my head around it. It just didn't gel for me and the way I play. I suppose I'm a bit old school in the way I think when it comes to some stuff, and like toms go in one direction and I can go down them and I can go back up them, but
it's a different approach, isn't it? Yeah.
I like this here. Issa says, I'm wearing pajamas, just not good for having a webcam. Well, I mean, he did say earlier he's in. Actually, I think he's in Europe. I remember him mentioning earlier, so that would make sense.
I love it.
In Spain.
Cool. All right. Well, shall we maybe call it dinner?
Go, mate. Go and have some food, pal.
Yeah, I'd say so. Jason, you're frozen, aren't you? What happens?
What happens now, Jason? No, he's coming back slowly.
There he is.
Look, I'm just such a Disney fan. I was just impersonating Olaf and Elsa. I was frozen. That's terrible. That's a dad joke. That's a dad joke.
Tumbleweed for you, man.
That's it, mate. That's the worst dad joke ever.
Yeah.
I should be in the penalty box for that one. I'm sorry.
Absolutely. Take yourself there now.
Yeah, exactly. Well, look, it seems as though everybody's too shy to want to come on, which is kind of funny. I would have thought people would be like going, get me on, but people seem to be too shy to jump on. I haven't received a message yet, so
yeah, that's okay. No, we can also probably kind of call it a night then.
Yeah,
huh? What do you think?
I think, mate, you need to go and have a bit of a meal and go and have some me time and some bit of self-isolation.
I'm gonna exactly. It had to go there, isn't it? I'm gonna open a nice bottle of wine. That's what I'm gonna do now.
Nice.
Let's just quickly finish off with this. Do you have a movie recommendation of something you've watched recently that you really enjoyed? Or are you not much of a movie guy? Like, I mean, Portnoy's probably the ultimate movie guy, but do you have anything?
I am not really I am a movie guy, but what did I recently find or what in general? What is a good movie in general? Watch The Life of Pi, for example.
Nice choice.
Life of Pi is a good movie, I thought, that came out. What else is recently pretty cool? Obviously, it's always good to watch something like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, where Quentin Tarantino or something.
I just watched that a couple of weeks ago. It was quite an interesting film.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
He loves his retakes on history, doesn't he?
Yeah, I know. Unbelievable how he kind of turned. I don't want to give away the whole story there for the ones who haven't seen it, but
if you want audibly, because of being, you've got very well tuned ears being a musician. If anybody, yourself included, wants to watch something sonically to blow your mind, make sure you get a really good set of headphones on and watch Ford versus Ferrari.
Oh.
The sound editing and the video editing on that both won Academy Awards this year. And I'll tell you what, when I saw it come up, because I watched that with these headphones on, I love these headphones. I watched it, I was just like, I was so encapsulated because the sound on that film is like one of the best sounding movies ever. And I'm so stoked they won the Academy Awards. So if you want a real experience, if you got a nice like 5.1, 7.1 sound system or headphones, Ford versus Ferrari is an audible experience. It's like listening to a Forrest Saville produced album.
All right. Well, that's good to hear. Yeah. See, I'm going to check that out now. Under lockdown, when I finish my sessions, I'm going to go do that.
Yeah, Ford versus Ferrari is an experience and a half. And even if you're not a car guy, you just be like, this sound is amazing.
Oh, that is awesome. See, I cannot, I drive an electric car, so I don't really have a sound.
Man. Good man.
I just imagine, I know how tall you are. Just imagine you jumping into something the size of a matchbox, a clown car.
Yeah, no, it's a Tesla S, so it has space, but it's good.
Fair enough.
But I really enjoyed it having not a sound, of the car, so I can listen finally to music like without any engine noises around, and the thing is super fast too, which is cool. It doesn't have to be obviously, but it is cool that it is. So, but I am a car geek, a little bit. So the Ford versus Ferrari, I'm gonna definitely kind of, check it out.
Yeah, it's a cool one. All right, well, Marco, mate, it's always good whenever I get to catch up with you, and thank you very much for giving David and I your time today. It's been wonderful. I know the audience has enjoyed it too.
Cool. Well, thank you guys so much for having me on the show and on the stream. And so, yeah, enjoy your day or night wherever you are right now. And it's the morning and the afternoon, I suppose, for you guys. And for me, it's the evening. So I'm going to open a bottle of wine, do a little dinner, and you guys enjoy whatever you have to do.
Thank you, Marco. One last time, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Marco Minnemann. We need to get a bit of clapping sound. I got to put some samples into my keyboard and just get audiences and stuff. Coming up tomorrow night, same time as what we started today. Tomorrow night, we have my buddy Vernon Reid from Living Colour. I've been friends with Vernon since 2006, and my God, we've gone on some adventures together. Then on Sunday night, Monday morning, depending on where you are in the world, it is Michael Sweet from Striper. Then the next day, it is Vernon. Sorry, I already said Vernon. It is Jordan Rudess from Dream Theatre, Marco's friend as well. And then the day after that is Drew from Carnival. Now, the only thing with Drew from Carnival, because in Perth, he's even an hour earlier than me. I start this at 9 a.m. here in Tokyo. It's actually 8 a.m. in Perth. So, unfortunately, that show might actually be on a different time zone. We might end up starting later in the day, which would be great for the European viewers and unfortunately not accessible so much for the American viewers unless you stay up late. So, and coming up, I've got a bunch of other people. I spoke to Herman Lee yesterday from Dragon Force, who's trying to find a schedule time. I also spoke to a fellow skinsman like yourself, who's also a very dear friend from Living Colour, Will Calhoun. He's going to try and find a time to come on. I still haven't called back Glenn Hughes yet, but I know that he's going to come and do a show. And it's pretty exciting. So please stick around. We have the Facebook group. I have now changed the name to Live Streams with Famous Friends by Jason McNamara. So please follow that page. You've got us on YouTube. Subscribe, hit the bell, because even if you don't know who's coming up, YouTube will tell you who's coming up if you hit the bell, which is pretty cool. And that's all my house cleaning out of the way. Thank you, David, for being here again as my wonderful co-host.
Mate, I sit quietly and ask dumb questions, so I'm quite happy to be here. But yeah, no, thank you, Marco, for your time, mate.
Well, thank you guys for making such a pleasurable, kind of amazing round table.
It's been wonderful. Thanks, Marco. All right, guys. Thank you very much, everyone. I'm going to end the broadcast now, and take care. Stay beautiful. Stay clean. Stay safe, and rock on.
Right on.
Thanks, guys. Stay safe.
Night.
Broadcast.